Welcome back, everybody, to the Motor City Mayhem final round. We have had a little bit of a technical glitch there, but Lyle did work it out, and the stream should be restarted now. So I apologize for the momentary delay, but we are back live.
Don't see our viewer count's not going up, but I do see Our live stream has gone back up on YouTube. I don't know about Twitch yet. All right. YouTube is back, so that means Twitch must be coming. We have viewers. Things are working.
Okay, I think we are back.
We're really sorry about that, guys. There was a we didn't exactly plan the fact that both of our streams were plugged into the same router, and Joe has to pack up his router, so we had to fix that.
Yeah, we were streaming. We were graciously using some of Wargames Live technology, but he is taking down his stream setup right now, so we did have to disconnect from that and reconnect back to the hotel Wi-Fi. But we should be back. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us as we move through the Tyranid Psychic phase here. Now, as we were down, I think we are setting up a Malaceptor combo on the Malaceptor in the middle here. I believe Hive Nexus did go down on him. Did we get a confirmation of the imperative this turn? Joel used the... interesting. So Joel using the Zoanthrope Imperative to give his Carnifexes an invulnerable save as long as they stay near Synapse creatures, which it looks like they all are in range of to get that benefit.
We have a change. The Hive Nexus has been put on the back Malaceptor.
Okay. The back Malaceptor. All right.
Nope,
now,
never mind. Change it again. All right.
Our table boss here throwing his arms up in the air. Looks like Joel maybe a little bit indecisive on his positioning here. Yeah, you do want it on the front Malaceptor because it does give you the additional cast to then trigger an additional psychic overload from that guy. Now, one thing to keep in mind about this matchup, and one of the reasons I think this matchup is really interesting, is that in the new Tyranid Codex, Shadow in the Warp now affects other Tyranid Psychers, which means that both of these pretty high psychic heavy Tyranid lists are going to be mucking with each other's ability to cast powers, which dilutes the impact of the Malaceptor combo quite a bit, since the chance your powers go off is reduced, and the chance you get the natural 7 you need in order to trigger their additional damage from Psychic Overload.
You know what? My mic was off when I got back from the tech problems.
No.
All right, thank you. I saw that on YouTube.
Welcome back, Lyle. Thank you, chats, for keeping us honest here, making sure we can make it through all of our.
You know what? I don't even want to complain too much. We had some weird stuff on the first day, as brand new stream, brand new setup. We have gone largely unscathed by the technological gremlins this weekend, so I'll take this one small hiccup that we were able to quickly fix. Because I want to watch some 40k, Trevi.
So Joel now here trying to activate his Malaceptor combo. Psychic Smite looks like it failed, but a Psychic Scream going off. Get that Mortal Wound counter ready.
All right. Did we get any Mortal Wounds from the bomb on the Harpy movement?
I think so. But I didn't see any models removed. Okay. So who knows?
Maybe the table boss can tell us. We'll see what happened. He made it very clear that's what he was trying to do with them. So. I feel like.
Yeah, sorry, chat. I'm just listening to the players here. Joel is talking himself in circles about his psychic phase right now. I don't even know if he knows what he's doing currently.
For some reason, our YouTube chats are not showing up there, but I do have them on the screen, so oh well. I don't know why that would happen. But
can we do a refresh here?
Let's try that.
So it looks like the front Malaceptor, I think, has dealt a couple wounds with a Psychic Scream and just cast its own aura. So we do see the Encephalic Diffusion going off there. That's going to create that Gungan Bubble Shield effect of -1 strength for attacks targeting into any models within 6 inches. Ranged attacks specifically, I should say, targeting into 6 inches of that Malaceptor. That is going to be pretty effective for the Death Spitters on the Kraken side of the table, because the Death Spitters, only being base strength 5, being reduced by 1 down to strength 4, means that the toughness 8 of the Malaceptors is double, which is enough to force those attacks to wound on 6s, which is going to be a lot of passive damage from the small arms fire that is normally very good against those toughness 8 bodies, with that high AP value that they have, is going to be bounced pretty hard by that diffusion.
We do have appreciation for your Star Wars Episode 1 reference that you managed to sneak in there with the Gungans.
Well, yeah. You can imagine, if you will, one of the Malaceptors is shooting the laser beam into the other Malaceptor, and it makes the big the big umbrella.
Yeah.
So we do have a mic'd camera chat, but it does pick up enough background noise that unfortunately you can't really hear it on the stream. So we are just going to be relaying as much as we can.
Yeah, we've made the decision that no player mic in this case is absolutely better than the bad player mic.
Yeah. So. Unfortunately, we ran into some issues with our microphone receiver, and it wasn't able to pick up the player mics without freaking out and sounding terrible. So you just get to hear our dulcet tones for the entirety of the game, and we do apologize for that. But hopefully we'll do the best to make it entertaining.
I did have a question, Trevi. How many gaunts did we start with?
So we started with 10 Hormagaunts.
Okay, so there are 3 left.
So we're down 7 mortal wounds so far.
There's 7 mortal wounds.
Several, the number of several being 7.
All right, mortal wound counter, go.
So now we're firing with the Harpy into a warrior unit, trying to remove that objective secured on the side of the table for the Kraken Tyranids. Again, both of these armies with sort of limited access to objective secured. There are some Tyranid armies that either focus more heavily on warrior bricks, which are innately objective secured, being troops choices. And there's an Encircle the Prey, pull that Harpy right off the table. No charges this turn for Joel. He is a little bit too far out, and we have Eric's really defensive positioning here behind that building. Looks like the Hormagaun's not entirely removed.
Nope.
Just a couple guys left there. And can we tell how many models were killed by the Harpy? I didn't see exactly what was removed there. So back over to the Kraken Tyranids side now. But as I was saying, neither of these armies with a ton of access to objective secured. Both of them have Deathleaper, who is a very strong contender at playing over those middle objectives, able to deny some access to stratagems with her ability, and on top of that, counting as 5 models at objective secured with her Warlord trait. But other than that, we just have 3 troops options in each list to actually hold those objectives. Now, there are some Tyranid armies that can get access to high levels of objective secured, especially armies with access to lurk biomorphologies, which lets them give every monster in the army objective secured. But those tend to be sub-factions with a less powerful suite of sub-faction abilities, which is why we don't often see them played competitively.
So the Harpy flying around this game, I think you mentioned in our last stream, Harpy's just relatively going to be uninteractive with this game at this point. It's going to fly around, do its thing, come back, fly around, do its thing, and just try to stay out of range.
Yeah.
And just do, I think you described it as attritional damage over the course of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, that Harpy being an aircraft can't do anything to score most of the time to score objective points. It can't hold objectives, and a lot of secondaries it does not count for, but it will just shoot you every turn with 6 Venom Cannon shots and 8 Stinger Salvo shots, in addition to Spore Mine bombs potentially on top of that. And especially into an army composed entirely of 3 and 4 wound infantry, those 4 damage heavy Venom Cannons are lethal. And this Harpy, I think we're going to see rack up an enormous number of kills over the course of the game, because outside of some very specific situations where the Harpy has to deploy relatively far forward, there's nothing in Charlie Andre's army that deals with it.
Right.
Normally you need, because the Harpy, when it comes back out of Encircle the Prey, deep strikes, it will, Joel can place it anywhere on the table where it's not going to be in threat range of any of the ranged attacks in Charlie's army. You really want really heavy long-range shooting, and especially accurate long-range shooting that can deal with that when it comes back in out of Encircle the Prey, because it can't bounce the same turn that it returns. And Charlie's army does not have any of that. The silver bullet he has to it is potentially the Winged Hive Tyrant, but again, the Winged Hive Tyrant only moves 25 inches plus a charge, and if that Harpy's coming down in the back corner of the table, it's not going to be in range to get hit by that.
Speaking of the Harpy's perfect weapon profile into the opposing Tyranids, it did pick up 2 warriors before it left.
Yeah, that's pretty decent. I think the Venomthrope aura is the one defense that the Kraken Tyranids have against the Harpy, because it doesn't really have a good way to get around -1 to be hit. It does have the 1 reroll from Leviathan, but out of 14 shots, it's only rerolling 1 of them, which isn't, a great increase in accuracy. And moving from hitting on 3s to hitting on 4s is going to be a big deal, especially for those low volume weapons like Venom Cannons.
Someone in chat is saying it's going to be difficult to know who is doing what, because it is a Tyranid mirror, and if you're unfamiliar with Tyranids, that can be problematic. I do feel I understand, as a non-Tyranid player, I understand your pain. We're all very lucky to have Trevi here to keep us grounded over the course of this game. I do think for the most part we're going to mostly be able to.
I think we're going to take a quick pause here. Looks like Charlie has a bloody nose, and he's gonna go rinse that out real quick.
That's not good. I was going to say, I do think for the most part we are going to see the Tyranids relatively stay on these 2 halves of the table.
Yeah,
I think they're going to crash in the middle, which, yes, that would be confusing when that happens. But I think we can relatively assume that the stuff on the bottom left corner is going to be Joel's stuff, and the stuff on the top right corner most of the time is going to be Charlie's stuff. So hopefully, for those of you who are not fluent in Tyranid like I am not, that might help simplify things a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, if you aren't experienced with convention and the GT environment, it is a lot of people in a convention center with a lot of air conditioning going on, and that makes for a very dry environment. So things like chapped lips and bloody noses after 3 full days of gaming are not out of the realm of possibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a little bit of a medical time out there, chat. Looks like Charlie's just rinsing his nose out there.
So I think it's a perfect opportunity for you to answer this question from chat, Trevi. Who, between the Deathleaper and the Parasite of Mortex, who do you think wears Alien Cunning better?
Sir Dingley Dan, that's a great question. I think the Parasite of Mortex is a more offensive piece, because it comes in with those big wings. It's able to move 16 inches and potentially wear a set of gestation sacks to place a unit of rippers on the objective that it's standing on, which happens at the end of the movement phase. So it's able to go to an objective, obsect that objective away, and then drop rippers on it to control it.
Right.
The downside is that oftentimes then it will die. So Deathleaper is much more of a utility piece. It has different uses. Unlike the Parasite of Mortex, the Deathleaper hits like a Mack truck. It has 7 attacks at strength 7, 2 damage apiece. So while the Parasite of Mortex, it's no slouch. It has 6 attacks at AP2, I believe, but they're only 1 damage, which means if you're attacking, something like Space Marines, you fight some Incursors or something like that, the Parasite of Mortex has a pretty good chance of not coming out on top.
Right.
Deathleaper does not have those problems. Any utility unit that Deathleaper's trying to contend for an objective with, she will absolutely kill. The other benefit is that she plays a little bit better in the back of the table as well, because if she is hiding in terrain because of that chameleonic skin ability, she blends right in and can't be targeted by ranged attacks outside of 12 inches, meaning you can put objective secured models that your opponent has to get up close to and charge, and she has a fight first ability to then, if the unit charging her is not fighting first, she can then kill it before it goes to swing. I think the level of utility and sort of supplemental abilities that the Deathleaper has ekes her out in the contention, but I definitely think that the Parasite of Mortex is definitely still viable just because of that super high speed. Parasite of Mortex also a synapse creature, interestingly. So it can reinforce your synaptic link chain a little bit. Okay. One thing that happens sometimes, especially late game, is your link chain becomes disrupted as you start losing warrior units, which are typically the middle segments, sections of the chain. And the parasite, if it's still alive at that stage of the game, can just move in to take the place of those units as they go down. Looks like Charlie back to the table now, ready to go and start his turn. So one of the reasons that we couldn't tell what people were doing, chat, is because people weren't doing anything for a while. So, so we are in the Neurothrope Imperative here. Charlie Andre's army in the top right-hand side of the screen. We have I guess a little unfortunately, two relatively dark schemed armies, so it will be a little bit difficult to tell them apart. But Charlie Andre has a lot of black and green, whereas we have the purple with desert bases on the side of the table.
Yeah, the base color might be the easiest way to keep track of what's going on.
For Joel Wilson's Tyranids here.
But I do think they're both going to crash in the middle, and they're probably going to be relatively split one side and the other. So hopefully, for those of you just kind of casually watching, that'll help simplify things a little bit. Although, watch me be completely wrong, and the next turn there's like 30 Tyranids in the backfield. I have no idea.
Yeah. So one thing, I know we haven't had Charlie Andre on stream quite yet, but one thing that we have seen Charlie do over the course of the tournament is play these incredibly passive games. He loves to keep enormous stacks of these Tyranid infantry way back in his deployment zone and just waiting out for turn 5 when he can blitz across the table, get charges, kill units, get overrun, score out his 12-point primary. And as long as in the early game he can keep himself up on those 8s, he can try to win in the late game. Because again, like we've been saying, he does not need to move aggressively forward. He has the speed advantage on Joel's army, and Joel is eventually going to have to contend with these big, for lack of a better term, magic boxes that he can't quite get through.
Yeah.
That said, he is going to be able to pour mortal wounds into that building with those psychic overloads from the Malaceptors, and I think it might be Charlie's prerogative right here to deal with those Malaceptors as quickly as possible. Now, we do have the Reaper of Obliterax Hive Tyrant moving out aggressively right there. Looks like he's going to try to get into a Carnifex and cut that thing into 1,000 tiny pieces and then run away. It does currently have a 4+ invulnerable save because it is standing next to the Malaceptor there, which is projecting the Zoanthrope Synaptic Imperative to make it harder to kill. So half of the Reaper of Obliterax attacks are going to be blanked by that. But assuming we can get a pretty decent Psychic phase off and maybe even a little shooting into that guy, we can do a couple of wounds and make sure that the additional mortal wounds dealt by the Reaper of Obliterax are going to be enough to finish that Carnifex off. That will then let the Hive Tyrant either encircle the prey into the sky and run away, or overrun to get back into a safer position.
Now, I'm sure you may have gone over secondaries with chat when the game started, and I was having to make sure our internet came back. I may not know a lot about Tyranids, but I do understand how secondaries work.
All right.
And I wanted to point out an interesting dichotomy that I think goes along with what you're saying about the difference in these two lists. Both players are taking Stranglehold, very Tyranid-esque. They like to jam big monsters into the middle and make that very difficult for their opponent. So it makes sense that both of them would like to try to contest the middle for as often as possible. But then we see a nice diversion, which I think is highlighted by what you say these two lists do, with Charlie having a list that he wants to play to turn 5, especially with this game where he's going second and then he wants to blitz across the table, as you said. Charlie has taken To the Last and R&D, where he wants to passively be able to score points and then just make sure he has maxed all of his secondaries on turn 5. None of that requires having to interact with his opponent whatsoever. Joel is trying to force the interaction. Joel has taken Warp Ritual, which doesn't sound interactive, except as you pointed out, Shadows of the Warp is going to affect him from the opposing Tyranids. And then there's plenty of Tyranids on their side that would be more than glad to try to deny a Warp Ritual if they get the opportunity. And then similarly, Joel has taken no prisoners, saying that I am going to try to blow you off the table. I need to kill you before turn 5 so you can't run across the table and do things. So realistically, both of those players cannot be successful in their plan. If Joel is successful in blowing Charlie off the table, there's no way Charlie's going to be able to score his secondaries. If Charlie manages to score his secondaries, that means he didn't get blown off the table, and therefore Joel must not have been able to score his secondaries. So we're really just this is unlikely to be a 2-point game. I think it could be very, very close. But one of these plans is ultimately going to have to be more successful than the other, and I think we're going to see whichever player is able to either, can I press the issue, can I stay far back and survive this game and just wait to the end, play that patient game, take advantage of my turn 5, getting secondaries at the very end of the game, or getting my primaries at the very end of the game. Can I survive long enough to get that 12, win primary by 4, and then just maybe win secondaries by 5 or 6, make a nice 10-point win and coast to that. So Joel is under the pressure here. He has to be the one to instigate the damage. He has to find a way to take enough models away from Charlie that he can't do the things his secondaries want him to do.
Yep. So it looks like to me we do have some movement happening here. The Hive Tyrant, like we talked about on Charlie Andre's side of the table, that's going to be the purple and blue Hive Tyrant in the bottom left-hand side of the screen, pushing forward to fight that Carnifex. We have a unit of Raveners in the center of the table, and it looks like already a couple damage potentially from a Perils, which is also going to be
Mortals.
expanded by the Shadow in the Warp, which now does an additional damage to you if you Perils within the radius as well. So already taking a little bit of damage on that Malaceptor, and then a unit of Hormigants stealing the middle objective. Now, this is going to mean that if these units for Charlie are able to stay on that objective and we don't lose any before Joel's next turn, he is going to outnumber Joel on the objective, because we do have Deathleaper counting as 5 models, but that means Charlie, is own, or no, Joel, I was right. I nailed it. It's only here for 8 models, and we have 9 between the Hormigants and the Raveners. I assume, though, that we are going to be angling to try to remove that Malaceptor, and we do have a lot of mortal wounds coming off the Zoanthropes right here, potentially with that +3 to cast. They power through Shadow in the Warp, +4 to cast this turn because they are under the Neurothrope imperative as well. We have to also remember that there are 2 Malaceptors in the back edge of Charlie's deployment zone.
Yes.
And
Charlie is not brainless.
Yeah. He has 12 brains back there between all those guys. And they are going to be able to pile some mortal wounds into that Malaceptor on top of that. So I have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to be angling here to knock one Malaceptor out of the table here, take the center objective away from Joel, and now one thing that we've talked about quite a bit watching Joel's army, force all of those mortal wounds to go into these idiot units in the middle of the table and not Charlie's hyper-defensive, very tanky big bugs. That's one of the downsides of a list that is one of the downsides of a list that is focused entirely on this psychic phase, and go to the overhead camera here, and is puts so much damage into the closest enemy unit, because the psychic overload damage, as well as most of the psychic powers from these Malaceptors, has to hit the closest enemy unit, which means if you just ring guys in front of them, you know exactly where their damage is going every turn, and you can make sure you direct it to the models that you want it to hit. We've seen a lot of really good players use that to the best of their ability over the course of the game, of the tournament, to try to blank a lot of the Malaceptor damage. Ben Sherwin, for example, used Eldari Rangers with the Ulthway sub-faction ability to ignore mortal wounds on a 5+, to redirect a lot of that psychic phase damage away from his more valuable damage-dealing units. And we saw Kyle Perry in the last round try to do it with empty Star Weavers that were just going to make the psychic phase activation for Joel as difficult as possible. Yeah, we can see the colored bushes there, chat. Yeah. We did have a question here from NW, our hero. Why did Charlie deploy up against the wall? Why not pre-measure the deployment into the building to be just outside of the Malaceptor maximum threat range? Now, I would say in most of the missions, that would have been what the players would be trying to do. Because the Malaceptors only threaten 20 plus an advance roll, they actually don't get across the middle of the table very well. The downside here is that we are in Death and Zeal, and Death and Zeal has one of the shortest rush distances of any of the missions in GT Nachmund. So the players only start 18 inches apart from one another, which means to be out of the threat range of those Malaceptors, you have to be a grand total of 26 inches away. So you have to be 8 inches back off the edge of your deployment zone, which is too far away. That's too much board control that you're giving up. And even for an army as fast as Kraken, if you deploy your entire army in a little ingot in the back of the table, Joel's just going to put one warrior into the middle objective and then pass clock and say go and force you to come into that threat range.
So I think we have now gotten to the psychic phase, it sounds like. So both ended up with 8 models and OBSEC in the center. So right now, nobody controls it. Obviously, to get Stranglehold, Charlie is only going to, and let's go back to our glitch cam here. Charlie's only going to need to kill a single model, but make sure none of his somehow die in the combat phase. Now, obviously, I was not here when this stream started. I had to step away. Did we do any of the, last round we saw Charlie, where we saw Joel pick his heroic intervention army-wide rule when he adapted. Do we have any of that this game? Is there any heroic interventions that these monsters can do?
That one I don't know. I guess we could check with our table boss to see if either of the players have given up their adaptive trait. I have to imagine that they haven't this time around because the reroll to hit out of High Leviathan is going to be really, really useful this game. We do have Venomthropes. You can actually see them there on the bottom right-hand side of the table. Those wiggly arm tickle finger boys are giving that -1 to hit aura to any of the friendly units within 6 inches of them. And Joel really needs that reroll to hit to try to circumvent that defensive ability. Now, we say both models have 8 OBSEC, but
there's 8 models and they both have OBSEC also. So we have Deathleaper is 5 and 3
It looks like 9 for Charlie. Am I a crazy person right now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There are 5 Hormagaunts.
7, 8,
I guess
9.
the
Player table judge may have lied to us because I only see 4. No, that's 5. That's 2 guys there, right?
So okay, I guess the 2 Raveners in the back are not yet on the objective.
They plan to get there apparently.
Yeah. So I mean, I imagine they're going to charge.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know. Can they fail a charge from that far away?
It would be a tough charge to make. Yeah. They are pretty far away. I don't know. Can we roll a 1 on 2d6 maybe? Let's try.
So Joel kept his reroll and Charlie has gotten +1 to charge.
Interesting. Okay. Very cool. So Charlie actually playing without his D3+3 advance, that means. He does get +1 AP on the charge, which will matter in some situations, potentially against the enemy warrior bricks. But that +1 to charge, meaning that he can play that KG game plan, use his opportunistic advance, which he does retain, to get +8 inches of charging, of advance distance, in addition to that +1 to charge from the sub-faction ability.
Yep.
Very cool.
I did just want to take a moment and thank all of you who are here with us. We are currently just hit exactly 300 viewers combined between Twitch and YouTube. Just want to say absolutely thank you for spending your weekend with us watching 40K. It's been an awesome weekend. I'm honestly sad that it's over after this game, Trevi, because it's been so much fun hanging out with chat, hanging out with you, just watching some good 40K. I'm going to ask this one time. I think we are absolutely trying to get our YouTube channel up and running, get the YouTube algorithm gods favoring us a little bit more. If you're on Twitch, we would absolutely appreciate it. If you have not been to our YouTube channel, you can hit !YouTube to get a link to our videos page. We'd love you just to follow us and see some of this tournament content we're trying to keep putting out. We're very proud of what we've been doing. We feel like we've really come a long way in the year since the inaugural Motor City Mayhem when we started. So we'd love to continue to provide you guys with that content. But thank you so much regardless if you choose not to do that. We really appreciate you spending your weekend with us. All right, so some Mal mortals are now going into the front Malaceptor.
So it looks like our Malaceptors have moved up right in the center of Charlie Andre's ruin on the top right-hand side. You can see those 12 brains glowing sickly in the darkness and in the shadow of the ruined building there as they are pulsing those psychic overloads into the enemy Malaceptor and starting to peel down. Can we get a wound count on that Malaceptor real quick?
Absolutely. So his they went down 2, so that would be 12?
So it had already taken 2, I believe, so I think it's down to 11. Because it did take a perils last turn is what it looked like.
I thought Charlie's took a perils. I think I got confused.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We already had a wound counter next to the Malaceptor at the end of Joel's turn. At the end of that front Malaceptor in the center of the table.
All right, our table boss will get to us here in a second.
So we did onslaught the Ravener unit in the center, so they're going to be able to fire their weapons without penalty and charge after this advance.
All right, this is where I make my money here. Got to keep up.
And Charlie actually realizing that he doesn't need onslaught because that unit didn't advance. All right, well, fair enough.
Oh, the Malaceptor is down to 2.
Oh, boy. Okay, so that's actually probably like 11 damage then in the second phase.
11 is more than 2.
Yeah, that's the Malaceptor combo activation that we wanted to. And Joel, I don't know, maybe kicking himself here that he didn't pick his own Neurothrope Imperative. Although, to be fair, I guess he is going to be probably taking Catalyst on that Malaceptor in the center. And he's going to hopefully be able to deal a crippling Neurothrope Imperative in the subsequent turn.
I mean, the beauty of bringing 3 Malaceptors, right? They kill one, you still got 2.
Yep. Just for the chat's edification, the players' names are on the same side of the score sheet as their armies are on the table. So Joel Wilson's army is the purple-green with desert bases on the left-hand side of the table. Charlie Andre's army is the black and green army that is very scary and full of snaky boys on the right-hand side of the table.
All right, so the Raveners have started shooting one of the Carnifexes.
Now, Raveners absolutely love to shoot at Carnifexes because Carnifexes' 2 defensive abilities that they have are -1 damage and a very high armor save. And Death Spitters are AP2, so they're putting that armor save down to a 4+, which is the same as their invuln currently. And they're only 1 damage, so they don't care about the -1 damage. So they actually don't care about any of the Carnifexes' defensive sticks. Yeah. And it's such a high volume weapon that you can just start piling wounds onto even heavily armored targets with those Death Spitters. Really, one of the biggest quality of life changes in the updated Tyranid Codex has been that new Death Spitter profile. Looks like Raveners going into the Malaceptor now. Let's see how much damage 25 attacks from these Raveners can do. One of the most absolutely efficient profiles in the entire game offensively. 5 base attacks per model plus 3 gunshots for 30 points apiece, Lyle. Can you imagine?
That sounds like good value.
Yep, and there goes...
Unless you're not a Tyranids player.
The Reaper of Obliterax into that Carnifex. Can we get a wounds count on the Carnifex here?
Absolutely. So the Carnifex that got shot was down to 5, so I imagine that's the same one that the Reaper of Obliterax is charging.
Yep.
But it is currently down to 5.
I don't think any of the other Carnifexes have taken anything. So we need 2 converted Reaper of Obliterax attacks to kill it, because each one will do 2 base damage after the reduction, plus a mortal wound.
So the Raveners are charging the 2-wound Malaceptor. The Tyrant charges the Carnifex near Joel's side of the table, which is the wounded one we're talking about. See, I can elucidate this a little bit, I think. So this one has 2. Oh wait, no, we said this one has 2.
Yep.
This one has 5. I'm a professional, Trevi. I'm a professional, dang it. I'm doing my best.
So it looks like the Reaper of Obliterax is swinging into the Carnifex. Carnifex has spent 1 CP for Indomitable Monstrosity to make it transhuman, so only wounding on 4s.
Now, are we likely to see an interrupt here, you think?
So I think we flubbed a little bit on this Carnifex.
Ooh, that's not good.
Only inflicted 3 wounds, I believe, after all the rerolls went through. And the Carnifex down to 1 wound. And now we're going to see if we can finish off with the Talon, the Tyrant Talon weapon that it has as its offhand. I think he has failed the invulnerable save against the 1 damage Talon attack to kill the Carnifex, and we are considering a CP reroll on Joel's side to keep it alive.
So if this Carnifex survives,
because the Carnifex gets to punch back.
I would say if it survives, is it likely to do significant damage to this High Tyrant?
So it's going to do decent damage.
Okay.
I don't believe that Joel has his Carnifexes upgraded for strength, so it is only wounding the Tyrant on 5s. Okay. Any damage through on the Tyrant now is going to pay dividends later on in the game, because the Tyrant's going to try to stay not take swingbacks as much as possible. But the more important thing is that if that Carnifex survives, it prevents Charlie from using Overrun here, because he will still be engaged at the end of the fight phase. That means that Charlie's going to have to use Encircle the Prey on it to get it off the table, which means it has to come back outside 9 inches the subsequent turn and cannot encircle that turn, and also cannot overrun that turn. So when it comes back in, even if Charlie can confirm his charge with +1 and potentially a Shard Lure and even a Pheromone Trail, which can make it a pretty easy charge out of Deep Strike, the Hive Tyrant lives there, and it will probably die the next turn if it's not protected by Tyrant Guard.
So we got to reroll. Did it sound? I saw a dice go in a box.
So we were rolling a death throw. Somebody dies here.
Carnifex died.
That is the Malaceptor.
Oh, the Malaceptor. So the Carnifex survived then with 1 wound.
So Carnifex survived. Okay. Oh, no.
And this is, I think, given the circumstances, we kind of assumed that Malaceptor may be short for this world. Keeping the Carnifex alive is a big deal.
The Malaceptor was down to 2. It's getting attacked by 1,000 Ravener attacks. You're gonna kill it.
This was an unexpected result.
That was a little dicey for Charlie. It sounds like he didn't use a Voracious Appetite when he went in on the Carnifex. It's a 1 CP stratagem when you attack with a Tyranid monster to reroll all of your wound rolls, and Charlie did not use it. We are considering an overrun here.
Now, do you think this is simply for a stranglehold? No, if he leaves, he doesn't have the center, right?
Yeah.
Right, let's make sure we're not crazy here. Because Deathleaper's back there counting 5.
Deathleaper's obsecking that objective away.
Does he?
I wonder if maybe we did. Charlie here is doing exactly what we did last game and forgetting that Deathleaper counts as 5 models.
Yeah. So yeah, the Raver overrunning away.
Goodbye, Raveners. I don't think that even saves them, because the Malaceptors are still there, and we're going to be piling some Venom Cannon shots. The Harpy is still yet to come back in, as well as the Malaceptor mortal wounds into that model, assuming that this Hive Tyrant leaves. Yeah,
so this is either some next level stuff, or he thinks that he's just obsec the model away, or the unit away with 4 models.
No, maybe we've realized. Our table boss is shaking his head at us over here.
You know what? It's been 8 games before the kids. Game 9. You can't blame them, Trevor.
Yeah.
People are tired.
We are tired today. Now, I wonder if we are going to engage those Malaceptors. I would normally appreciate an engagement on the Malaceptors because they don't attack it back too many times, and the Raveners are -1 to be hit in melee, but we are so tight on holding the center objective. Mm-hmm. If you lose too many Raveners at all, you lose that objective, and you donate your opponent a 12-point primary turn, and that you can't be doing that. That's no good.
Now, you said the added benefit, at least in the last game, was when you do engage them, you do get to start having dictation over where the psychic bullets start to go.
Right, because they have no way to fall back and cast spells, so they have to stand there if they want to commit their psychic overloads. And it looks like the Carnifex just hit that Tyrant for 5.
Oh my god. So that's down
after the adaptive biology saved a couple.
7?
Yeah, down to 7. Okay. So it is still top bracket, which is good for Charlie.
Yeah.
But the Carnifex preventing that overrun on the Hive Tyrant and surviving so it gets to shoot this coming turn, which is a big deal, and hitting that Hive Tyrant down. Man, this turn has gone mildly disastrously for Charlie. He has killed a Malaceptor. He's movement blocked the other Malaceptors and dictated where their attacks are going to go, but his Hive Tyrant is not going to play in the have no play into the game this coming turn. I imagine we're going to unlock a Neurothrope Imperative this turn for Joel to give all of those Malaceptors +1 to cast, all of his army +1 to deny to prevent the other Malaceptor combos from activating, and give them a 5+ against any mortals that they might suffer.
+1 to deny plus Shadow and Warp seems like a combo, Trevi.
It's a hell of a combo. If you can get within 18 inches of an enemy Psyker, it is highly unlikely they get their spells off.
Now, for those of us who don't play Tyranids, do you have to get within 18 inches of whatever is coming through the synapse, or the thing that's actually casting it?
It is... So
because you can cast through a synapse, right? You don't have to cast through yourself?
So the way the synaptic link works for spells is it only determines the range of the spell. Okay. So the caster itself is still the model performing the psychic test. Okay. But then, instead of, for example, targeting a unit within 24, you can target a unit within synaptic link range. So it only affects the targeting of your spell. It doesn't change where you're casting.
I may have gotten confused last round when we had the 5 zigzag spell that went
from
one corner
to
the
other. The Malaceptor on one corner was casting the spell.
Yeah.
And the spell, once manifested, could target anything within 12 inches of any of those models we zigzagged to.
Okay. So it was the fact that there was an unbroken chain of synapse from one side of the table to the other, which meant functionally he could target anything on the table. I understand.
Yeah. It's like the range of the spell gets bigger the more synapse creatures are selected. So in that situation, it was basically like he cast a spell that could target a unit within 60 inches.
Right. Okay. So, but it's still, those Shadows of Warp still has to be on whatever is attempting to manifest the spell.
Right, exactly. Which is why, for example, those Neurothropes are so powerful, being able to reliably cast spells from way far out of deny range.
All right, so Charlie has gone Invuln Imperative, and Joel has gone Psychic, as you expected. Charlie has 6s to hit or exploding right now. Never mind.
Maybe not.
Hashtag never mind.
Sounds like maybe some indecision over there from both of these players.
All right. This is the hardest our table bots have had to work all weekend, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, so, you know what? I'm glad we can laugh about it at the very least.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what? And I will say, though, Trevi, hashtag never mind, not as catchy as hashtag 69 Mortals.
Hashtag 69 Mortals, very nice. Can we get to a 69 Mortal counter this time around? That's the real question of the day.
I'm rooting for it. I think everyone's rooting for it. We just got to wait and see.
Now, do we count mortal wounds from the Reaper of Obliterax here, too? Because I think it did 3 mortal wounds to that Carnifex.
Then yes, we'll absolutely update this. This is all mortal wounds.
Every mortal wound, yeah. This is basically mortal wounds.
I added one to this counter because of I counted the one for the additional mortal from the Shadows in the Warp. So
there you go. Hey, that's getting deep. All right, fair enough.
All right,
perfect.
So currently, Joel ahead by 10 points on the board, but behind by 8 points on the mortal count competition. So who's really winning at this point, I guess it's hard to say.
Yep. So it looks like some discussion about the players there, about the position, from the players there, about the position of that Carnifex in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. There is a gap between the two sections of the building, which we do have Dan Paolini, our senior judge here, overseeing this table. He has told them that according to the event rules, that gap is considered to be line of sight blocking and a wall for the purposes of positioning.
Yeah, you just connect the dots there.
The Carnifex is able to move through it because there isn't a wall there.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
So what they've determined is that the Carnifex's base cannot intersect the wall.
Yeah.
But the Carnifex is going to be able to move through that gap, no problem.
Okay.
So essentially, just when it goes to charge, it's going to have to charge around the edge of that wall.
Right.
Although I think that was essentially the extent of its movement anyway.
So to clarify, because there are various gaps on this table.
It's true.
We're talking about
this Carnifex is trying to sneak its way into that building.
We're not trying to jam a Carnifex through this little crack in the wall.
Can we get a look from our table judge at what is inside that building right now? I think it is the Gargoyle unit, but just like to confirm that because we can't see inside the building. Unfortunately, we don't have X-ray vision yet. Can you imagine?
Luckily, our judge or our table boss is literally standing right next to that building, almost like he knew through
our
synaptic
question was
link.
Coming.
He knew through our synaptic link what we needed.
We are, in fact, a 3-brain hive mind right now.
Yeah.
We are exactly 1/2 of a Malaceptor.
We probably weigh about 1/2 of a Malaceptor too, so that works out. We're not. I mean, Malaceptors are big, right? They're probably about the size of 6
but it's
people.
It's pure brain, gray matter, and muscle, though.
Yeah.
So not a wasted spec on those Malaceptors, just like our.
I'm not going to lie, Trevi. Until you've educated me about it this weekend, I thought that it was one giant brain that just had 6 holes revealing it. I didn't realize it was 6 brains.
Yeah, each one has 2 lobes, so I imagine that they're individual brains. If we take a look at our glitch cam here, we can look at Malaceptors up close and examine the beauty of their cranial anatomy. So it looks like the warrior unit in the center of the table is advancing forward. We got a 6 on its advance roll, doing our best High Fleet Kraken impression here with that unit. And trying to get as far forward as possible to push the issue with this High Fleet Kraken list. It is a little bit of a dangerous engagement into that building. We do have the Venomthropes there protecting the Ravener unit in the front. There may be some spaces that Joel can get a charge into those Raveners, although it might be a little tough. But we have to keep in mind that those Venomthropes in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, those beautiful purple, blue, and green primary color Venomthropes there, do have that 3-inch aura that forces you to fight last on the roll of a 3+, which means they could really muck around with anybody who is trying to engage into that building.
Just to let everybody know, The Carnifex is charging down. We're not sure either a Lictor or a Deathleaper. I don't remember what's in the list.
Yeah, there's no Lictors in the list, so it must be a Deathleaper.
So it's Carnifex versus Deathleaper time.
I don't think the Carnifex wins that one. I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
Especially not at 1 wound.
Sure.
I think Deathleaper will win that one.
If the Malaceptor shoots some Shark Laser Beams over there.
Yeah, definitely a Malaceptor moving over there. Soften that Deathleaper up a little bit. I think that Carnifex is towing on that objective already, right?
Yes, he is on the objective, but does not have
the Malaceptor in the bottom right can sneak mortal wounds through that building. We don't even have to worry about the Carnifex taking that fight because the only model contesting it will be dead.
So 1 wound Carnifex getting points for Stranglehold uncontested. Pretty good use of efficiency of your almost dead model.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Joel was really agonizing over that CP reroll on the 1 damage Talon attack. I think you smash that CP reroll every time. Yeah. The number of sort of falling dominoes that single pass save meant for Charlie's army was insane. That if we look back on this game, I think that could be a situation where I imagine, Charlie maybe overextended a little bit with that Hive Tyrant, didn't take into account the 4+ invulnerable save, and definitely didn't. I don't think took into account the 1 CP transhuman that Carnifex has access to.
We've talked a little bit over this weekend about people who may be getting into competitive 40K or people who may be trying to get better at 40K or whatever. People casuals coming to check out the stream and want to see what's going on in the tournament scene. We've tried to give little nuggets of help where we could. One of my nuggets has always been don't reroll stuff with a CP if you absolutely don't have to. This might be a time where absolutely
that was an absolute have to moment. Yeah. I think. It doesn't. If that Carnifex dies, I don't think it ends the game for Joel.
But it does help win the game
in an insanely strong position right now. Yeah, absolutely.
I very commonly see people be like, "Oh, I just this model. If I make a reroll, it'll live." Well, but did you need it to live?
Right.
And in this case, this Carnifex living can do a lot and score points immediately.
Yeah. You also have to consider the number of remaining attacks against you. So, for example, if that Carnifex was exactly going to die to a Reaper of Obliterax swing, but Charlie then had his follow-up attacks, maybe you don't reroll that one because there's a non-zero chance, and actually significant chance, that one of those wounds goes through and kills that Carnifex anyway. But because that was literally the last attack being resolved there, Joel just slams that reroll, changes the entire game state.
I think the problem is Joel doesn't seem to make any decision quickly, so he had to take a moment to pontificate about it. Regardless.
I do appreciate, from a commentary perspective here, I do have an ear on one of our camera mics, so I can hear a little bit of what the players are saying. And Joel does like to enunciate all of his game plans and all of his intentions as he goes through his turn.
A commentator's dream, right?
he's basically commentating his own game.
Yeah, chat echoing some of those sentiments that don't using rerolls or using CP for rerolls not always actually an efficient choice. You really need to weigh what that CP could do for you later versus how many points can it get you right now in those situations.
So right now, we are having a discussion about where these warriors could charge to going into the building here. Looks like Charlie Andre's intention there was to screen out the potential positioning for the warrior bases, but Joel believes that he could potentially get a warrior inside the building. And yeah, it looks like the judge has agreed there. And I think it is a little bit awkward to try to proxy base your pre-measure your proxy bases on the top of the building rather than actually where the warrior would be placed, which is the bottom. And I think the volume of the wall there would certainly intersect its base and prevent that charge from completing. So Charlie actually allowing Joel to go back and reposition the warriors so that they are spread between the two objectives here, and that we do have objective secured on that top left objective to protect that from any Raveners that are going to come up and sneakily try to steal that away.
If I may for a moment, this is a theme of Death or Glory. Our team is running this event this weekend, and our team motto is really playing by intent. And so I'm very happy to see that on the top table here. For those of you who may not have heard that before, playing by intent, very clear. When I put these models here, this is my goal with them. I'm putting them in such a way that you should not be able to charge them. Maybe didn't declare that the way he thought he did. Joel moves over to say, I'm going to charge these guys. Like, oh, I was absolutely trying to set these up where you could never do that. okay, well, just move in a way that if you knew you couldn't do that, just go back and do what you would have done instead. So that way, no one feels like we're trying to gotcha anybody.
Right.
Let's find a winner of this tournament through who is the best general of their army.
Yeah. Question in chat about the base size of the Warriors. It looks to me like Joel's Warriors are 50 millimeter based, and we can actually see them on our glitch cam right here. We should have a sponsor for the glitch cam. We can be like the glitch cam sponsored by
I
Gillette.
at least need like a Nurgling that's like Glitchy the Nurgling or something like that.
Yeah, so you can see the Warriors there on the big fat 50 mil base. It is an open question what base size Warriors are actually supposed to be on, because Games Workshop supplies them on both 40 and 50 and has never said which one is correct.
So do literally both come in the box at the same time?
I think some boxes are packaged differently. It's just kind of if you look on the website, they're packaged with a 40 millimeter, but sometimes you buy them and they're a 50 millimeter. I think a start collecting box had them on 50 mils, but the box of 3 you bought them in were 40 mils. It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
Oh, GW. All right, so also speaking of intent, if we go back to our overhead, Joel has made an effort to screen out the Hive Tyrant. That is we see some random diagonals of warriors and things kind of around the table. We have made as much effort as we can to make sure the Hive Tyrant cannot land on Joel's half of the table. Obviously, he can't stop him from landing on Charlie's half of the table and doing whatever he wants.
Right.
But if we can just make sure he doesn't land behind any of the important objectives or objective holders, that's what Charlie has tried to set up here with this turn. All right, so we have Catalyst off on the Warriors. As you said, there to make sure that objective is not easily stolen away. So doing what we can to protect them to do that job.
Yeah, I think, that is a good move, right? To make sure that the Hive Tyrant can't come in and do something very obnoxious. But like we said before, any situation in which you have to encircle the Hive Tyrant is, unless you're setting up for it and you can cycle your Hive Tyrants if you have multiple, Charlie only has the one here, obviously, it's brutal because that Hive Tyrant essentially does not participate in the game the coming turn. You can convert its charge roll, and we have some immense charge buffs available here. If Deathleaper ends up surviving the Psychic phase, we have a Pheromone Trail from Deathleaper for +2 to charge. We have the base adaptive trait for an additional +1, so +3 to charge, and Shardleaver for roll 3d6, drop the lowest.
That's
so you can convert a charge out of Deep Strike very easily. It does look like we are taking some damage on Deathleaper down there. And but the downside is, like we talked about before, because that model was arrived in the table from reserves that turn, it can't overrun and it can't encircle the prey. So wherever it charges to, it lives there forever until it gets blown up by a Malaceptor, probably.
I was going to say, it's unlikely to survive to encircle again at that point, it sounds. Now, I don't see it. Does the Harpy have to come back this turn?
It does.
I don't think it's... I see it off the table over there. I see it on the black part of the table. So. Is that a judge question we should point out?
Yeah.
All right.
It might be dead.
It just dies? Okay.
I think that's up to the judge.
I wasn't sure if it was one that, just as long as it's on there by turn 3, if it was okay.
No, it is an illegal game state. It has to come in at the end of your subsequent movement phase in your, and we have moved on to Psychic phase now. That's a good catch, Lyle. Yeah. I assumed it was in the back corner off the camera, but yeah, like you said, it's definitely next to a dead model.
It is definitely not on the white part of the table. It is on the black part of the table.
I wonder if we're just gonna let it go. It did not fly off normally, no, Chad. It used an Encircle the Prey to re-deep strike itself. Yeah, chat. So we did have a top 8 cut, and we are on the finals of the top 8 cut here. So we did have several X and 1 players. I believe 4 X and 1 players. Is that right, Lyle? Make it to top 8.
We had 5. We had 3 undefeated.
5 X and 1 players make it to top 8 and fight for the finals, which meant that I think excitingly, if you were playing and you were in that X and 1 bracket, it wasn't time to after one loss, you don't pack up your toys and go home, because you are still fighting for one of those top spots, as evidenced by Charlie here, who has made it all the way to the finals, even with a loss on his record.
So we are trying to verify if the Harpy flew off or encircled, because that makes a big difference.
Well, it definitely shot with its guns, so that would have been surprising to me if it flew off the table.
It
killed 2 warriors.
Yeah.
Yep. So it looks like Malaceptor combo going off onto the Raveners and Hormagaunts in the middle of the table.
And we did do. We may have glazed over this. We did 8 mortals to the Ravener from the Zoanthropes.
Update mortal wounds.
Update mortal wounds.
There it is.
Thank you. All right, our table boss is talking to our judge to make sure
we're just going to clear that up. But like we were talking about before, Charlie doing a good job here of directing the Malaceptor combo wounds wherever he wants it to be. The looks like we're going to have a little quick pause here. All
right.
To resolve some stuff. Anyway.
All right. We'll go back over here. This is a very interesting game. Haven't heard anything about the circle yet. Lots of mortals happening.
Yeah. It looks like some judges having a discussion. I think it sounds like we are through the psychic phase and the players getting a little bit confused about the game state. So the judges are just going to solidify exactly where we're at.
Yeah.
And then we're going to keep playing after a short momentary break here.
We may be taking a additional, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it sounds like Charlie might not be feeling too well.
Yeah, I think we may be taking an additional medical timeout, which obviously the health of Charlie is far more important than what's going on the table. So
absolutely, 100%.
Prioritize that.
Yeah.
I'm getting a sense that I don't necessarily need to, I don't want to share any private information about Charlie.
Yeah.
But, we're going to make sure Charlie's okay.
Yep, so. Absolutely.
So, chat.
How's it going, everybody?
Yeah. Had an awesome weekend. We are so glad so many of you are still here hanging out with us. We hope we will get back to 40K as quickly as we can, but absolutely 40K is going to be secondary to making sure everything is good at the table.
So we want to tilt that camera up so you're not cutting your head off?
Yeah, well, I was trying to, earlier we had the giant sunlight.
It looks like
the sun has passed.
Fortunately, the clouds have saved us from the god rays.
The sun has set on our tournament.
The sun is setting on Motor City Mayhem and Motor City itself.
Yeah.
And as such, we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about Todd Howard over here sitting behind these windows shining a flashlight at us.
So we're
just worse.
So yeah, those of you who saw a few people just joined us, we're taking a quick pause, making sure everyone at the table is feeling good right now, making sure everyone's okay. But yeah, it's been an awesome weekend. And as I think we may have predicted on Friday morning when, for those of you who weren't here, the Tyranid FAQ came out 30 minutes before the tournament started Friday morning. We have not used the Tyranid FAQ, but if you haven't played Tournament 40K in the past few weeks, today of the tournament has shown why Tyranids may have needed an FAQ in the first place.
Yeah, getting 4 Tyranids in the top 8, and then bracketing all the way down to 2 in the final 2 here definitely shows that the faction has some rough edges to knock off. I definitely think that, especially compared to the other top factions in the metagame, post FAQ Tyranids are probably still going to be in a good, potentially advantaged spot, but not the dominating power that we have them at right now.
Yeah. As a Tau player, I can assure all of you Tyranid players, there is life after nerfs. Tau got nerfed. I assure you, they're still very good.
Yeah.
I am confident to say that Tyranids will continue to be very good as well. Now everyone can focus their ire on the real mutual enemy of 40K, and that's elves.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they might be the next things we get to look at.
Absolutely.
We'll see. I've heard Chaos Knights aren't terrible, but I love Knight models, but it's hard for me to get behind anything where I only have 5 models to play with.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I think we're all just going to start trembling in fear, though, because I hear a rumbling coming in the distance, Trevi. The sounds of 300 Lehman Russes barreling towards us with the Guard Codex on the horizon.
We did have a Guard player in contention for top 8 this weekend, right?
That was wildly impressive with the list that they brought.
Who, unfortunately, couldn't participate in round 6 because they had to leave early.
They had to go home. Yeah.
But we're 4-1 going into the 6th round.
No. They did finish 6. They finished 5-1. They played round 6. They were never going to be able to play today.
Oh,
so it was if they had a high enough ranking, they were going to have to bow out.
Right.
But they did naturally come to a 5-1 conclusion.
5-1 with Imperial Guard.
Yes.
We weren't using conscripts. We were using classic custom regiment.
Yeah, it was regular Imperial Guard
just
stuff.
Regular Imperial Guard things.
Yeah.
absolutely, wildly impressive for sure. Looks like Charlie is back, and we are discussing some stuff, and
I see a Harpy.
I think we might be placing the Harpy. Ooh, okay. So Judge has allowed the Harpy to be placed. That is, in terms of Judge rulings, the Harpy must legally be on the table. There is no leeway within the Encircle the Prey stratagem for the Harpy to not redeploy in the subsequent movement phase. So forgetting to deploy it actually does create an illegal game state, and it is up to the judge at that point. The judge could easily say that was a mistrigger on Joel's part. The Harpy gets destroyed because it can't be set up within coherency. Otherwise, you can say that we have to deploy that Harpy regardless.
It could be as simple as I'm not exactly sure what happened, but it could be as simple as Charlie told Joel, put it on the table. He may not have wanted just to say
that also is potentially the situation.
So, one way or the other.
All right, a little table boss here.
Hold on. See, I got all
hashtag 69 mortals.
I turned the mics down because I assumed we had some secret private knowledge coming from our table boss. No, just hashtag never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Folks in chat here complaining about orcs, but let me tell you something. There was an orc player in the top 8, no custodies though. So
that orc player put the tournament on his back.
Absolutely. Orcs. No Tau.
No.
But we did get orcs.
Shocked me that, I avoided Tau on purpose on day one. I could put anything on stream when I want to. I avoided Tau because I just assumed we were going to get Tau in the upper echelons of the tournament.
They're putting up results, and they do have still very functional builds after their data slate debuffs. But it does seem like they're still fighting the good fight. Those Tau players.
They're in a place that I'm very happy with as a Tau player. I think the most recent data analysis that I saw this previous Monday after last week's tournaments had them at a 49% win rate, but they still won a bunch of events.
Yeah,
which I feel like is a perfect place for them to be. Is that you don't want to see every single Tau player winning 70% of their games, but you want them to have the ability to go out and win events. So anything in the realm of 50%, but still viable to actually top table. Perfectly okay with that as a status of a faction.
Yep. So it looks like we're just on a quick water break here, chat. But the players are sitting down and having a little conflab, making sure that everyone's hydrated and good to go as the game completes. But
again, we love 40K, but we love our players more.
Absolutely. Yeah. It turns out there wouldn't be a game of 40K without 2 players to play it. So you need them hale and healthy as the game completes.
I'll be honest, as a spokesperson for Team Death or Glory, we don't want to be the GT where anybody died at or anything like that. We want to make sure that everyone is safe and healthy.
Absolutely.
And we're making sure everyone's taken care of.
You do have death in the name, though.
Yeah,
but I guess you choose one,
glory.
Right? Yeah.
And if you're in the finals, you're going for glory.
Both are available, but we would prefer glory.
So we're going to continue to. This is a great chat. If you got any questions, if anything, even not related to their finals game, we'll have at it right now. We would love to hang out with you.
I wonder which which faction maybe could take the Motor City Mayhem.
If you have any
our
votes
judge is asking us right now.
If you would like to, we could take an informal poll right now. I'm not even going to open.
We should set up a formal poll.
Is that any different than if right now if everyone just types Tyranids? I think everyone's
3
right.
options: Tyranids, the audience.
There you go. Okay. All right. So we see some questions in chat. What are you thinking, Trevi, post FAQ?
Nidless post FAQ. I think the faction gets busted a bit wide open right now. High Fleet Leviathan is sort of insanely powerful in part due to Hive Nexus, which is really turning on builds like this Malaceptor combo. Malaceptors themselves got nerfed literally 3 different ways, which is a little bit abusive, but to be fair, they are too strong, so that makes total sense. Mm-hmm. Hive Nexus being less powerful, only able to be targeted on warrior bricks or on core units specifically, and meaning warrior bricks and carnifexes most of the time, means that we may see Leviathan proper lists move down to focusing more on those warriors. Mm-hmm. We might also see alternative sub-factions be brought up to play as well. So things like a Kraken Ravener focused list, like Charlie Andreas playing right here, is really strong. Throws a lot of really lethal peace trading units with a very high threat range. I think also lists that focus on the lurk biomorphologies, which allow them to get almost army-wide objective secured, are also really good. And those tend to focus more on the big monsters and Carnifexes, which I know are fan favorites.
I never got to do it on Tyranid monsters, but I did play Necrons for a year to some success. And double OBSEC, really good.
Turns out,
often.
Hell of a drug.
Yeah. Army-wide double OBSEC or OBSEC on things that don't normally have it, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Especially if you can combine that with elements of speed and move blocking to deny primary early. That would be a very fun version of Tyranids to see on the table, I think.
Some comments in chat here about the Psychic Overload. It is capped at 6 mortal wounds here, not as a part of the ability, but simply because Malaceptors no longer have any way to cast more than 2 Psychic powers in a turn, full stop. That's it.
Yep.
We've cut you off. You've had enough, Malaceptors. 6 mortal wounds is fine.
Yep.
And to be honest, I still think it is still a usable unit. A gun that shoots you for 6 mortal wounds, plus potentially 2d3 if you're doing 2 smites, a smite and a psychic scream. 6 plus 2d3 mortal wounds is a lot of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Sisters famously had a specific chapter strat where you could do 6 mortal wounds with Stormbolters. Just randomly pop things for 6 mortals. And apparently if you just randomly throw 6 mortals at basically anything in the game, it's strong.
Yeah.
Like it's just as a good utility piece, because utility is not even the right word. It's good against everything.
Yeah.
It's good against small units or one units like we saw with our elves today. It's good into other monsters that have large health pools. 6 mortal wounds always going to be strong no matter what.
Yeah, I think also Jackalope here pointing out that the synaptic imperative from the Malaceptor is good. And I do think that one of the things that it is important to keep in mind when you're building Tyranid lists is your selection of synaptic imperatives. Because one thing that I've noticed, especially if I'm spamming stupid stuff like Carnifexes, is I run out of synaptic imperatives to use over the course of the game. If I only have 2 or 3 in my list, which sometimes does happen if you're taking the same data sheet over and over again, then you need additional choices to complete your efficiency. And one of the sleeper hits of that synaptic imperative is that the Malaceptor one specifically is that it allows you to advance and perform actions. So you can in missions like this one where you have objectives that are outside your deployment zone but are still relatively defensible, you can take secondaries like raise the banners high, activate that Malaceptor synaptic imperative potentially through a Hive Nexus, advance with an infantry unit and get them to that far objective and immediately put a banner on it.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of those interesting combos, interesting interactions now that there are less incentive to just be like, I'm going to play 3 Malaceptors.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the cool things about the release of the Tyranid Codex initially is that a lot of the Tyranid lists that people were building were one of everything. You took 1 Winged Hive Tyrant, 1 Foot Hive Tyrant, 1 Venom,
which
1
is cool.
Zoanthrope, 1 Warrior Unit, and as things got optimized down, we saw them focus more on spamming one archetype or 1 unit, and that is what we were seeing here with the triple Malaceptor build. But, I mean, I doubt we're going to see triple Malaceptor anymore. You might see 1 Malaceptor, and that's exactly where any unit in 40k should be.
Yeah.
If the answer is, do I add this unit to my army? Maybe it depends on the build, and probably just 1, then that unit is in a good place. We've done it.
The only unit, and this is going to sound wildly biased, the only unit in 40k that I think makes sense from any kind of flavor or gameplay standpoint to spam is Crisis Suits. Because the whole point of Crisis Suits is that each individual person is supposed to be kitted out differently to make the unit.
Over here.
It is. I know it sounds like bias. I understand. But the whole point of the fluff is that you can take whatever problem you have solutions to it by the varying loadouts you can create. If you think of each iteration of combinations of weapons on Crisis Suits as a different unit, you rarely actually see spamming of the same unit. There's always different weapons and different upgrades and everything on each unit. There's not a lot of other. Do what?
What about Sanguinary Guard? Is 3 Sanguinary Guard good times?
That I wish the rest of the Belenjo's Codex was good enough that you didn't need to spam.
They don't even have a Codex.
The supplement. Yeah. As I've alluded to many times this weekend, the book is really Sanguinary Guard the Codex at this point.
It is, yeah.
There's just not a lot else there that incentivizes you to play non-generic Space Marines other than the Sanguinary Guard. The best before the change to Armor and Contempt, the best thing. Actually, that's not true. Before a lot of the recent additions to the Codex meta, the best thing to play in Belenjo's was usually a bunch of Vanguard vets with Lightning Claws. The insertion of so many things that turn off rerolls to wound has made that less good. The addition of armor contempt even more so. Although double lightning claws or lightning claws chainswords are actually still really interesting on Vanguard vets, just for spamming attacks, don't needing a storm shield anymore. But it's just there's not a lot of reason to play Blood Angel specific units right now, and it's annoying. I personally love all my Blood Angels characters. Blood Angels have historically been great at playing Hero Hammer, but their heroes are not good enough right now to carry a list by themselves. Librarian Dreadnought, you don't see them. Mephiston, you don't see them. Death Company, you never see more than one, really.
So here's my question, right? Is that an indictment of Blood Angels as a faction, or is that an issue with the Space Marine Codex? Because you don't see the Space Marine units because Sanguinary Guard are so much better than them. Probably because a lot of the Space Marine units aren't that great.
Yeah, it's what saying the Space Marines need to be better is always weird because they're kind of like the bar that the rest of the game is compared to.
Right.
Like you don't want to be too much better than the Space Marines. You don't want to be too much worse than Space Marines. And so when you start trying to make Space Marines better, it kind of inherently shifts how good the rest of the game is supposed to be, if that makes sense. So it's hard to... We've all been in metas where Space Marines are the best, and those are not usually fun or healthy because everybody has a Space Marine army, and what ends up happening is you have people like me who have a bunch of red Iron Hands out there walking around not getting shot, because that's just what any Space Marine players do. Is if there's something that makes me have good Space Marines, I'm usually going to end up just saying I have a red or blue or gray version of that. So I've always found it difficult to say how we should balance the Space Marine Codex, because I just don't want to see an Iron Hands meta again. Is my basic problem is the end of 8th edition Iron Hands.
Right.
Where
I think it's maybe less of a factor that, Space Marines shouldn't have nice things, and more that anytime Space Marines do get nice things, because they're always because they're always the most overrepresented faction in the game.
Yeah.
Even today, right? We had 22 Tyranid players because Tyranids are just the best, right? And then across all of our Eldari subfactions, we had 27 between Azuryani and mixed Eldari and Harlequins, but we still had 25 Space Marine players. Yeah. So, even in an event where Space Marines are not doing that well, they're still the biggest representation out of any single faction. And as soon as you give them like a cross-board buff, they get real big. Yeah,
we had 25 Marines total, combining all the different chapters of Imperial Marines, which was 3 more than NIDS, which everyone understands is the best army in this tournament. So that's just always my trepidation. We've all heard rumors of a potential Space Marine 2.0, maybe this summer, after the rest of the books. Hopefully, God forbid Space Marines get a second codex before God get their first. That would be a large amount of whining that would consume the internet. But there's the Space Marine Codex kind of rebalances the expectation for what armies should be able to do in the game. So we'll see. I love Blood Angels. I like playing Blood Angel stuff. I wish Blood Angel stuff was better. There's a lot of Blood Angels units I haven't played in years. I don't know the last time I played a Furia, so probably 7th edition. I haven't played Death Company Dreadnought ever. We haven't seen Astaroth since 8th edition. It's a problem. The current issue, I feel, in Blood Angels and Space Wolves and Dark Angels are all probably going to suffer similarly for this in different ways. They're all early edition codexes or supplements. When Blood Angels came out, it sounded great that everything in the army had 2 damage. And then we found out that every army in the game got -1 damage. And seemed less good.
Yeah, I remember when the
players
Death Guard,
had the same problem.
The Death Guard Codex came right out after the Blood Angels Codex, and the Death Guard players and the Blood Angels players were...
That was
a little sad.
I literally stopped playing Blood Angels with a Death Guard Codex because I don't mean this as any kind of indictment of Death Guard. My wife plays Death Guard, and so it was just the fact that I was going to have to deal with it all the time, and I was like, this is just not... I'd rather go play Necrons that have spam strength 5 AB2 1 damage guns, because that just seems like a better time. So we're I don't know. I love... Look, I can say nothing about Blood Angels this weekend other than my hope has been reinvigorated by what we saw from Sam this weekend. Sam playing what I would not say is a spammy amount of Sanguinary Guard. I feel like
it was 22.
It was
right?
It was under 20. I think it was 19. I think it was 2 7s and a 5.
Sure.
Which, I mean, it's 3 units, but they're not even 3 max units, or none of them are max units. One is an actual... Well, no, one of minimum is 4, so one is basically a minimum unit. And then we had other stuff that we don't normally see. We had aggressors, we had eradicators, we had Speedy Boy. We had the Speedy
Speedy Boy.
Yeah. So I'm, I have to say that my interest in creative juices have been reinvigorated a bit with Blood Angels this weekend.
Absolutely.
We saw Space Wolves putting on a show on day 2.
My God.
That was or it may have been day 1, but they tabled functionally a Deathwing Terminator list, which we all agree may be one of the most resilient things in the game.
Right.
So there's just a lot to be excited about right now as a Space Marine player. As you've alluded to many times this stream, there is an expectation that we'll be getting points changes at the end of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be too early to call for any buffs or nerfs until we kind of see what do the point changes look like, because that's going to come out if there's a Space Marine 2.0. We kind of expect that to be around the same time. But regardless, we have 2 things on the horizon that we all know about. Actually 3. It's supposed to be Year Chaos, so we know Chaos Space Marine's coming. We assume Chaos Demons are going to come out at some point this year. As we said, the Lehman Russes are revving their engines, ready to come play 9th edition with the rest of us. But even beyond that, Trevi, beyond that, you may not have seen them because your eyesight may go over the top, but the squats are coming this Christmas.
You got those Leagues of Votann.
Big
changes.
I am excited. I have no idea how good that kind of army is going to be, but I'm excited to squat on some fools. So I imagine there's going to be a lot of squats in the meta, regardless of how good they are, just because people are going to try them out.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be fun to see. Either way.
It is going to be cool. We did have a question here I did want to talk about because I'm biased. I want to talk about Tyranids.
Absolutely. I just talked about Blood Angels for 10 minutes, so you have that.
Sir Dingley Dan asking, how do you make the best High Fleet Gorgon list? And I don't know if you knew this, Lyle, but High Fleet Gorgon gives every weapon on every model in the army 4+ poison. Every single guy.
That sounds good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
In addition,
what's the drawback? Why haven't we seen a bunch of Gorgon yet?
Well, the drawback is that sometimes you don't play against other Tyranid players.
Sure.
But currently, a lot of times you do. And Gorgon becomes, if you wanted to build a real mirror breaker list, I think it would, it would probably start with Gorgon. You can get super duper easy access to objective secured because High Fleet Gorgon is a lurk biomorphology subfaction, so all of your monsters get it. So if you take a bunch of obsec infantry, you can compound that with your monsters having it as well. So you can take things like Molochs to deep strike on your opponent's objectives, smaller Carnifexes and things like that can hold down objectives. And then from there, all of your infantry just also become blenders for especially other Tyranid monsters, but any monsters in general. You can fire Scything Talons and Death Spitters and stuff like that are just going to vaporize people.
All right. We did. I see a couple of people asking about updates for the game. It does appear. We'll be honest. It doesn't look like both players are in the best health, but I think one player feels good enough. They've given us the thumbs up. It looks like they're getting back together. So it looks like we're going to try to finish this game. Absolutely highest priority is on player health right here. So we don't want anyone to do anything to put them at risk. But we did just get the thumbs up.
So,
it looks like
just to elucidate things for people there, we have been on pause because Charlie Andre hasn't been feeling too well, and just asked for a momentary pause there to sort of catch his breath. And we did resolve the Harpy situation with the Harpy being placed down on the table. We're going to complete the remainder of Joel's turn and see what the situation is. And if Charlie Andre feels like he's in a good position to win, the game will continue. Otherwise, Charlie Andre is considering a concession to take a break and take a nap.
Which absolutely, most important thing is him making sure he's okay.
Yep.
Everyone wants to win a GT. Totally understand that.
100%.
But there are more GTs down the road. So.
Yep. It's not worth your health to try to win the Toy Soldiers for sure. And I mean, regardless of who actually comes away with the crown here, getting to the top 2 spot in a 176 player pool is a absolutely phenomenal accomplishment. Regardless,
realistically, him winning this game him winning or losing does not mean he should be more or less proud of his 100% this weekend.
Yeah, especially with how variable a single game of 40K can be. Even getting to, the level of top 8, at that point, you've essentially made it. Whether or not your games resolve in your favor is sometimes up to the luck of the dice, and you just have to be happy with where you are.
You hear
right
it time and again. The goal is to make top 8, because once you get top 8, it's all matchup dependent anyway. You could draw a good matchup right away. You could draw a bad matchup right away. All your bad matchups could be on your side of bracket, whatever. Once you've made top 8, you have accomplished your goal of quote unquote winning the tournament. You have won all the things you need to win. So there is no shame at any point once you lose in top 8. You have done something that the rest of the players were trying to do. So
yeah. So we are pushing back through Joel's psychic phase now. We're using a Power of the Hive Mind to neuroparasite with one of these Malaceptors.
And for those of you who are unsure, we do have the Harpy. We were allowed to place it on the table right here. So
right on the top, left-hand side.
Right, so Paroxysm was denied.
So this psychic phase not going well for Joel so far. He has, I think, an entire Malaceptor activation either denied or failed to go off.
That's not what they're there for.
Yep, nope. And that sometimes, relying on psychic powers, despite the fact that you have the most reliable psychic powers in the game, it turns out the warp is fickle, and that is one of the mechanics of it. And sometimes you just don't roll high enough to get what you need. Yeah, 2 psychic fails, 1 deny, so that Malaceptor does not trigger any of its mortal wounds.
So notably, that means that this Deathleaper did not get hurt.
Yes, yeah. Can we just get a confirmation that the Deathleaper is still hiding in that building there, obsecking that objective? So we are in the shooting phase now. Going to be trying to finish off the Raveners in the center of the table there that we can take a look at on our glitch cam. So firing our Warrior Death Spitters into them, going to be wounding on 4s and forcing them into a 6+ save, 5+ if they take it on the models in cover.
And we do have confirmation Deathleaper is inside the building. That was where the mortal wounds were trying to go, and unfortunately did not pan out.
So we might see maybe a charge or a shot from the Carnifex if it can draw line of sight to her. Although I think that with the opaque walls being as they are, I don't believe the Carnifex is going to have a shot.
And you did say before, for anyone who's joined us after our pause, the Carnifex currently is not particularly good at matching up with Deathleaper if he has to charge it by himself.
Yeah, a wounded Deathleaper feels a lot better if you only have to get 1 or 2 wounds through to actually kill her. She does have, I believe, 7 wounds, so she is difficult to take out with a 3 damage weapon. You need to convert 3 attacks, and at -1 to hit with a 4+ invulnerable save, that gets a little bit tough.
Yeah.
But I believe she is only down to 1 or 2 wounds, so only 1 hit from the Carnifex will kill her. We also...
I thought we didn't do any damage to her yet. I didn't think any spells went through. Well, I'll get a wound update.
Yeah, we'll just ask the table boss over there.
No, we wanted to wound it with the Psychics. I'm not sure what actually happened before our break. I don't remember quite for sure. Looks like both players may be conversing about... Well, no, I thought they were pointing at Deathleaper, but I think they're off to the side of it.
Yeah, so they're rolling out some saving throws, I believe, on the Raveners, because they are catalysted. So we're resolving the damage plus damage ignore rolls, which does make them much more resilient to the 4 damage heavy venom cannons, because the heavy venom cannons, being 4 damage and exactly killing a Ravener means that only a single passed damage ignore roll from Catalyst keeps that Ravener alive to eat another heavy venom cannon shot.
Yeah. Which we talked about yesterday. The field pays don't need to stop all the damage. They just need to make you make more attacks.
Yeah.
Anytime you can disrupt the flow of every hit picks up a model, that's just extra value. Yeah, no wound counters on Deathleaper at the moment. I think the plan we had talked about was originally the Malaceptor was going to get closest to Deathleaper and then power some mortals into there, and then obviously that just did not pan out in the second phase, unfortunately.
Yep. So looks like down to only 1 Ravener in the center there. We have taken the center objective back for Joel Wilson. There is objective secured there for Charlie Andre with those 2 Hormigans chilling in the back right-hand corner of the zone. But with Deathleaper's alien cunning psychic or warlord trait to count as 5 models and OPSEC, she is taking that away for Joel.
So Joel has at the very least reestablished Stranglehold this turn.
Absolutely.
Already controlling the middle objective no matter what else happens.
Yeah. Well, we've definitely, I think, we've seen how powerful that warlord trait is on a unit that's as hard to deal with as Deathleaper is. She has changed the course of many games for Joel so far.
We are, Fat Dingo in Twitch chat, we have moved into the shooting phase of Joel's, I believe this is his second turn.
So there's so the Carnifex is activated and fired into the Raveners in the center of the table. And with those 4 damage guns, we're able to wipe out the entirety of the Ravener unit in the middle there.
This is only top of turn 2, so you're in top of turn 2 shooting phase right now. So yeah, there are dramatically less things in the middle right side of the objective than there were when this turn started. not too long ago. But as you pointed out, that's kind of how this list operates. We're just going to keep sending things. Send things one thing after the other.
So we have also put Carnifexes on the 2 wide flanks of the table for Joel. One downside of Charlie Andre's very defensive playstyle is that it allows Joel to kind of play in the sprinkler with these independent ranged attackers like the Carnifexes, and that means he's actually able to start squeaking lines of sight into the monsters hiding in Charlie's deployment zone. And we are starting to take a couple shots into the Malaceptors, but an Indomitable Monstrosity activation from Charlie Dare did bounce one of the Carnifex attacks on that transhuman effect. Or on the Haruspex, excuse me, not the Malaceptor. We did take to the last on Charlie's side, and the Haruspex is one of the most expensive models in his army, which I believe makes it a to the last because it has been upgraded with a adaptive physiology. It's 195 points, if I remember off the top of my head, because it has a Dermic Symbiosis. It does, yep. So that is one of the 3 most expensive units in Charlie's army, meaning he has to keep that alive until the end of the game. So a Haruspex, it's true, chats. We've been seeing a lot of Haruspexes played competitively for Tyranids, just as a big beat stick jerk with Dermic Symbiosis for a 4+ vulnerable save, potentially transhuman, and -1 to be hit. They have a boatload of attacks, and they're good into every situation.
So just to make sure everyone in chat knows, the 2 to last that Charlie has picked are going to be the Haruspexes, one of the Malaceptors, and the Winged Hive Tyrant. Those are his 3, which even more value, as we pointed out earlier, with the Winged Hive Tyrant not managing to finish that off. There was debate about should I make this reroll to see if I can stay alive. We got, I think it was 5 free damage into it.
Yeah, with the Carnifex attack. Yep.
Yeah. So that Hive Tyrant is going to have to play dramatically more defensively than it probably wanted to the rest of the game. All right, the Tyrant has charged the Gaunts.
So yeah, we're questioning a Spore Mine drop on the Harpy. Seems questionable at best. The Harpy has to have completed a move, but it didn't make a move, just placed.
Sir Dingley Dan in chat, we have seen lists that have done well at this event this weekend that were, I think, we're running double Mawloc at one point. I think we discussed a list that we saw that was X1 at 1
yeah, there were a couple of Mawloc lists as well. I do like the Mawloc. They are a little expensive for what they do, which is take an objective away from somebody and then get murdered. Yeah, we have questioned that Spore Mine drop there. It's certainly not legal. You do have to actually move in order to place a Spore Mine behind you. A bomber can't bomb anything it doesn't move over, it turns out.
That sounds fair. That's not how bombs work.
No, yep, it's definitely not. A little funky. All right, well, at least we caught that and cleared it up.
All right, so now we should be getting back to the Hive Tyrant is charging the Gaunts. We believe the Gaunts are in the... Or let's see, if we go back over here, you should see the Gaunts. As they were trying to hold this objective on their own.
Yeah.
And look,
goodbye.
There's a Hive Tyrant, but...
Yeah, fortunately, we do have that high AP weapon on those Raveners, though. They're going to be able to push through the 2+ armor save on that Foot Hive Tyrant and put it directly on its invulnerable save. We also have the Venomthropes back there, which will help this fight in the middle for Charlie, because they do have that 3-inch fight last on a 3+. Mm-hmm. So Charlie can potentially use this turn to engage with multiple units and force one of the enemy units he's engaging to fight last. So there's no interrupt available, because Joel does have 3 command points, so he is representing an interrupt in the fight phase if he wants it. We are back to Charlie Andre's turn now. Scoring his 8 victory points for holding the back 2 objectives. We have 6 points up on Stranglehold for Joel after taking that center objective for a second turn. Looks like only 1 Warp Ritual scored this time. I think the second one was denied.
Yes.
And we will tally our no prisoner score later on. Yeah. Those Raveners, the one downside of a lot of the Tyranid units is that they are very efficient in their profile, which means their wounds count is sort of inflated, which, you know, is normally good. Being harder to kill, I don't know about you, Lyle, but I found that when my units are harder to kill, I'm feeling pretty happy about that.
It usually makes it easier to play the game.
It does. The downside is that it also makes it easier for your opponent to score points on them.
Oh, no.
Because a lot of the Tyranid monsters are 15 wounds, so they give up 3 points and bring it down, and a lot of the infantry are 3 or 4 wounds, like all of these Raveners. So those Ravener units alone are 20 wounds apiece, meaning just the Raveners by themselves would give up 6 points on no prisoners.
That's more than 0, Trevi.
It's a lot more than 0.
Yep.
I've found that to be true. So we do see that Ravener unit pushing out there. It looks like we're going to maybe try to finish that Carnifex off that's at the bottom. I imagine we can do that with the shooting attacks alone from the Raveners, because we don't really need to do... We only need to do 1 damage to kill that guy. And then I think we are measuring potentially a charge into the middle here.
I do want to point out the Carnifex down the bottom.
Oh, this is the Venomthropes. Excuse me. That's my bad. The Wiggly Ticklefinger boys are going to be looking to get a charge into the center and force a fight last on one of these units.
Yeah. Did want to point out the Carnifex that was hoping to charge a wounded Deathleaper chose to just stand pat. Not having a wounded Deathleaper.
Because Deathleaper survived? Is that right? Yeah, because...
Well, Deathleaper took no damage that turn.
Oh!
That was the issue, is that none of our attempts to wound it mattered.
We don't even have to worry about those ranged attacks on that Carnifex. That Deathleaper is about to get her some. Num num. Joe here from War Games Live. How's it going, buddy?
Sorry, I'm soaking wet.
Nah, you're good, dude.
Hey, Lyle, take care.
Yeah, it was good to see you this weekend, Joe.
Yeah. Joe from our sister stream over there saying goodbye as he's taking off. Oh.
Yeah, streamer fraternity.
Absolutely,
Streamer's got a stream.
If you haven't checked out Joe's YouTube channel, go check it out. War Games Live on YouTube. Certainly, I think one of the highest production value streams in any industry.
As far, if you were about to say 40K, I was like, I don't even think it's close.
Right? No,
it's not a competition.
Yeah, Joe is the nicest looking, most professional, highest technology, or most technologically advanced stream in 40K for sure. And to be honest, I think he beats out esports events.
There's a lot of esports.
That guy's stream has 10 cameras on it.
I couldn't even
10 cameras.
Dude, it took us a whole day to get 4 to work on our stream. We didn't even get 4 to work the way we wanted to on Friday. We had to wait until Saturday to get everything to work, and we still only have 4.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so jealous, but so glad that we have something like that in the community to put out content that all of us can enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And he gives great bear hugs.
Yes. All right, so I did want to point out, this is important, Trevi. Joel is currently ahead by 8 on the game score, victory points, but we have a dead heat in the mortal wound counter. 14-14 right now.
Ooh, that's the real competition between these two Malaceptor armies, for sure.
I think we all understand the first player to get to 69 wins.
Yep.
That's just how it works.
13 cameras. Excuse me, chat. You're correcting me. 13 cameras in that setup.
So he has literally 3 times as many cameras as us, and he can make it all work right away, and it takes me a day and a half to figure it out.
Absolutely, yeah. Champion stream over there. How
many cameras are in a TTS stream, Trevi?
Usually 2, sometimes 4.
Do you think you could make a TTS stream with 13 cameras in a virtual table?
Yes. I don't know what they would do, but sure.
We could do it.
Yeah, and in the virtual world, anything is possible.
You could be the virtual Joe.
Yeah. The best part about the CTS stream, is that you're basically a drone camera.
Yeah, that's always great.
You can look anywhere.
You can literally zoom into every single fight every time. It's great.
Yep.
So it appears that there's a question about where are the Raveners going. I'm not quite sure the players know yet. Looks like there might be some discussion.
Just making sure. I believe that was an opportunistic advanced strat. So they move 20 inches. So if it looks like an insane advance, that's probably because it is.
Yeah.
Because it is Hive Fleet Kraken, the fastest Hive Fleet in the game.
As you have talked about, this Hive Fleet is trying to leverage its blistering speed over its enemies, and this is just... We're going to see this turn after turn. Something moves way further than it seems like it should be able to.
Yep. Table Boss throwing some hashtag neverminds at us.
Hashtag never mind. Raveners did not move, as we were all confused about.
As Charlie works out his game plan for the turn.
I'm just glad we have a theme.
Yeah.
We had hashtag. We've had 420 Blazer it. We've had hashtag 69 Mortals.
Hashtag 69 Mortals.
And now we've got hashtag nevermind. So.
Yep. Get those hashtag 69 Mortals in chat. And it looks like we are rolling in advance on these Raveners to get them into the building to set up for another charge. So Charlie really using his Raveners as the trading pieces that they are designed for.
Literal missiles, right?
Literal guided missiles. He uses the corner of the building as the cannon into which he loads a bunch of snaky boys and then throws them into his opponent.
Now, I have a feeling that you may be biased in this answer, but would you rather have 5 snaky boys or 1 good stormy boy?
5 snaky boys. What are you talking about?
I mean, the stormy boy. I was here at the table as I watched the stormy boy steal your heart this weekend.
Yeah.
So
who wins in a fight, though?
No, I'm just talking about like just around. What vibe do you want? Do you want the stormy boy?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Snaky boys.
I understand the snaky boys winning the fight. I'm talking about the vibe.
All right. Yeah. Well, snaky boys. They're kind of sweaty.
Sure.
Stormy boy is pretty chill.
Yeah.
He's just happy to.
He just loves to hang out in the middle of the table. Yeah.
He puts his straw hat on. He gets his hoe, and he just goes farming. Farms some VPs.
Yep. Plus, if you take the story boy, you get 5 more friends inside. and
there's only 5 sneaky boys, but there's 6 guys in the story boy.
If you guys have no idea what we're talking about with our Stormy Boy, please go back and check our 2 Blood Angels games.
Sam Procopio's games.
That's the Land Speeder Storm, or Scout Speeder Storm, absolute hero, specifically yesterday against TJ Lane against Thousand Suns, pulled one of the largest individual victory points for any model I've ever seen in a game. Single-handedly scored 24 points by himself. He was trying to do the Emperor's work today in his top 8 matchup. Unfortunately, he tried to pull a Madden. He couldn't quite put the entire team on his back, but he gave it the Emperor's best effort.
So we did see the movement phase end here. 1 unit of Raveners in the top corner of Charlie Andre's front building there, setting up for the charge next turn. And if we look at our glitch camera right here, it looks like we can see the second Ravener unit in the middle, ready to charge in and potentially try to take out Deathleaper to secure that objective. We do have a warrior, it looks like, poking out there with the Venom cannon in the center of the screen below the Hive Tyrant that might charge in to try to get Charlie his own objective secured on that objective. And in order to take that middle objective, and then reload that attack for the subsequent turn by moving more Raveners into that building.
Now, I have a question, Trevi. I don't know if the Malaceptors are likely to die this turn or not. There's a lot of stuff coming in their direction. If the triple Malaceptor list loses 3 Malaceptors, what does it have left in the chamber? 3
Carnifexes, a Harpy, a Hive Tyrant, a unit of Zoanthropes, and 12 Warriors.
Now, this is an honest question. Is a list built around 3 Malaceptors that loses 3 Malaceptors? Are those things enough to carry the game the rest of the way?
It depends on how much damage the Malaceptors have done.
Sure.
I think right now, to be honest, I do think that there is a chance for the remainder of the army to be able to close the game out, just given how much table presence Joel has currently. But we will see how this turn goes. Joel could lose a lot of stuff this turn with this offense into the middle, and if that happens, then it will be on the backs of those support units, which is not necessarily what we want to see. Now, we do have the Harpy there as well, so we're going to get another activation of the Harpy into an Encircle the Prey probably to keep it safe on Joel's side.
So it appears that our plan for Joel is you talked about. I'm sorry. I'm about to get confused. We have the only flying monster on Joel's side is the Harpy. The flying monster on Charlie's side is the Winged Hive Tyrant that has come back in this turn. So,
but the Harpy's going to get to move before the Flying Hive Tyrant,
yes,
because it just deep struck things to Encircle the Prey, which means it gets the opportunity to then encircle back out, and the Hive Tyrant can't attack it again.
So, are we going on an assassination run here? Do you think with this Harpy next turn, trying to go after that Flying Hive Tyrant, get it off the table while it's wounded to the last, off, gone, don't have to worry about it anymore?
It would be difficult to kill right now because of the Tyrant guard protecting it.
Oh, you're right. The one way that you can give a giant monster bodyguard. That's right.
It's not impossible because I think we only have Zoanthropes standing in the way of it. So if we kill the Zoanthropes with Carnifexes or something, and the Harpy stands next to the Hive Tyrant, he could potentially kill it. But it does require a lot of dedication that Joel might rather put into the models actually taking the center objective.
All right, so the Zoanthropes into the Tyrant do 2 mortals. Paroxysm goes off on the Hive Tyrant, but saves all 3 mortal wounds with the Feel No Pain. So I do need to... We did get 2 mortals off from Charlie. We got to update that wound counter. He pulls ahead. He's up to 16 over 14. Total of 30 wounds done so far in with our mortal abilities this game. All right. Still going through the second phase. Players are currently talking about what is left to do here. Trevor, you will update us once the players have made a decision.
Yeah, discussing some psychic power targeting. It looks like we did try to synaptic lure one of the units in the center.
And what does that do again, Trevor?
Reroll charges.
That seems good.
Against an enemy unit. And I think we're going to try to synaptic link that onto the Carnifex in the bottom. So what it looks like we're doing here is going to be putting the Venomthropes into the Carnifex to clip it out without having to expose the Deathleaper.
We've also put Neuroparasite, I believe, onto the warriors that are in that top left objective.
Yeah, I think that spell, unfortunately, in the mirror match, not super useful because Tyranids have high base toughness values. Those warriors toughness 5, you have to roll above their toughness to deal mortal wounds, which means you roll 6 dice and deal a mortal wound on a 6. So you might get one.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the spell, you might as well cast it, I guess.
Yeah,
unless you're
especially
worried
with
about mortals or something.
Right, especially with the Malaceptors, because the Malaceptors can trigger their overload off of it, even if the spell itself doesn't actually do anything.
Yeah. And then we did get Synaptic Lure to go off on the Carnifex up front. Which Carnifex does that mean? There's not a... Our 2 Carnifexes are both in the ruins, right? We'll get more clarification on which Carnifex.
So 2 more mortals on the Hive Tyrant. Hive Tyrant in the center down to only 8 wounds. It is potentially in range to get killed by the units that are there.
We're up to 18 mortal wounds. Okay, so the one your Deathleaper has the Synaptic Lure.
And it looks like we are measuring the Zoanthrope smite here, and it might actually go into the Carnifex on 1 wound. Nope, looks like it's actually going to go into the Hive Tyrant. If that spell goes off, it's a D3 plus 3 smite. It was actually going to do potentially crippling damage to that Hive Tyrant if we do get it. Looks like only 1 actually went through on the Tyrant after that 5+ damage ignore.
That doesn't sound crippling.
Yeah, not well. Actually, it literally bracketed it. So.
Oh well, okay. Then it actually.
Oh no,
cripple.
1 off bracketing. It is at 7 wounds. Just kidding. Yep. Unfortunate.
So the Hive Tyrant is smiting his opposing Hive Tyrant. That may be the one that just did the 1 damage. It may not have been Zoanthropes that did that one. Then I'm not sure. Because the Zoanthropes are standing near the Hive Tyrant, right? So you could have been measuring from that.
Yeah. So that was a catalyst. Looks like is going to be going onto the Ravener unit in the center. Synaptic linked through the Warrior that's in the middle there to protect those guys from a swing back. They are also -1 to be hit in melee, so they're relatively resilient with 4 wounds apiece.
There's some prime heavy Venom Cannon targets, though.
But the catalyst makes them significantly harder to kill.
Oh, that's right, because any save on you get 4 chances to make you have to take a second attack.
It is, I believe, almost a 50 or 60% increase in their survivability against a heavy Venom Cannon shot.
Yep.
Yeah, just with that 1 catalyst, which is very good.
Yep. Well, I feel like the Tyranids player may be able to find something else to point those cannons at. I feel like there's a lot of prime targets here. He has a plethora of choices. It looks like we have done something to the Carnifex that's down there next to Deathleaper.
Yeah, so I think we are firing some Death Spitters, trying to finish off that 1 wound model so we don't have to deal with him anymore. But now the scary part for me here, oh, there it is. Death Spitters will kill that Carnifex. Deathleaper is safe. She doesn't have to even lift a finger. Lift one of those giant praying mantis fingers.
And I assume that we did not get any death throws into Deathleaper.
No, I don't think she was quite close enough.
She leaped over the throws.
Now, the scary part here to me is that a lot of the Kraken army is now going to be outside of the range of those Venomthropes. which means it is now in a prime. It is now going to take additional damage from the heavy venom cannons, both on the Harpy and on the Carnifexes that are able to squeak line of sight around the top edge of the table.
We have players in our RTT breaking into the opening song from The Lion King, for those of you who could hear that over our mics.
So here come the Venomthropes.
Into the Hive Tyrant.
With the charge of the Hive Tyrant, yep. So potentially applying that fight last, so the Hive Tyrant won't have an interrupt available. And attacking with a boatload of 2+ poison swings. Very good in the mirror match, turns out.
Apparently poison is good when you're not fighting vehicles.
Poison is very good. They are on the AP 1 damage, and the 2+ save on the Hive Tyrant is going to be pretty useful there. That Warrior going in as well. Warrior really displaying, I think, the power of that Synaptic Link ability, because he has allowed Charlie to apply all of his psychic powers over the course of the psychic phase, in addition to now dealing some damage. He was depleted by the Harpy shot last turn, but is still alive. And here come the Raveners. Looking like we're going into the Deathleaper to remove objective secured from the center.
Do we get the, I don't know if you said it, but we did get the solo warrior to charge in as well.
Looks like...
There's a hat.
Hello, that's Charlie's beautiful Moab, Utah hat there. Very nice. Looks like we are going to be charging backwards into the Hive Tyrant. Charlie mentioning that he's aware that, he can potentially, fight first into Deathleaper, kill her, force the fight last on the Hive Tyrant so there's no interrupt, get the Hive Tyrant with the poison attacks and the Warrior, but he doesn't want to bank on that 3+.
Yep.
If you're at a stage in a game like this where the game could potentially go really south with that Hive Tyrant interrupting and killing a lot of your models, especially the objective secured in the middle of the table, banking on a 3+ roll to make that happen is not really worth it. But that does mean that Deathleaper will survive this turn. So we're fighting with the Venomthropes now into the Hive Tyrant. I imagine that the fight last did come into play there. And it looks like 5 saves going through. Oh, and the player's pointing out, of course, that the Venomthropes are actually going to be AP2 because they're Hive Fleet Kraken. So they are forcing a 4+ save on that Hive Tyrant, putting him down to, looks like 4 wounds. Now the Raveners are going to go, and I think that is going to be that Hive Tyrant put into the dirt. I wonder if we see a fight on death here from Joel. What do you think from that Hive Tyrant? He does.
I feel like this would be a good time to use it.
He would get a nice Reaper of Obliterax hit there. He does count his full wounds. He could potentially just peel out the Obsec Warrior, I think, is probably going to be the game plan. And then Joel would control that objective regardless. So I think it's almost a sure thing that we see a fight on death to steal that objective back for Joel. That would be a pretty big swing. Charlie really hoping to clear out that middle objective, but if that does happen, it will be very unfortunate for him.
Yeah, Joel understands that Charlie's goal in this game is to win on primary somehow, whether it's early or late. So any opportunity that he can mess that up, he needs to take advantage of. And we are, halfway through this game. There's no, you have resources. I understand that, but at a certain point, we're not saving them anymore. We've got to deploy every last trick we have to try to make sure we win this one final game.
Yep. So we are considering a Death Surge there. Looks like the Raveners do take out the Hive Tyrant, and Joel is going to be spending that CP to do it. Here we go.
Big money, no whammies. Let's go. Getting the update from our tail boss. We will know as soon as we can.
He's swinging into the Ravener unit.
Interesting. What reason do you think he would pick that, Trevi? What benefit does that provide him?
So we're getting our full reroll here from rerolling ones from his Lash Whip and a floating reroll from High Fleet Leviathan. Did miss 2 attacks, converts that into wound and into hits, and then wounds 3 times.
Does this weapon match up better with Raveners in particularly?
It does okay. So we did have.
Yeah, well, the problem, Chad, is we don't think he had lost the objective necessarily because Deathleaper OBSEC 5 models is still there in the back. That was why we thought he might go after the warrior to take off the OBSEC.
Looks like a discussion here on the Reaper of Obliterax, and our camera getting knocked around a little bit. The Reaper of Obliterax does have an unfortunately ambiguously worded ability, thanks GW, with the new codex, where the weapon damage ignores any rules that allow you to ignore damage, then also inflict mortal wounds on top. So some events have ruled that the mortal wounds will also ignore damage ignore rolls.
Okay.
I don't believe that's actually how the rule works, but it is up to the TO.
Okay. And unfortunately, I don't think there's a lot I'm going to be able to do to fix that camera before the game's over, Chad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are going to. Well, we can just get a.
It's still relatively pointed where we want it to go. So
yeah,
I apologize for any of those of you who are perfectionistly upset that it's not censored anymore.
Yeah. I'm curious about this line of play here from Joel.
Can you think of any reason that this would make sense in the long term? Like, is there some like really obscure interaction that may allow us to clean up, let fewer Raveners or something like that? I don't know. I have nothing to go with the Tyranid Codex.
Yeah, it seems to me like he just gave up the center objective. Charlie now holds it 7 models to 6 for Joel. Both of them have objectives secured.
Is it possible that we once again had a player forget that Deathleaper counts as 5 OBSEC? Maybe this time it was Deathleaper's owner? That could be an explanation. Because do the monsters count as 5 models also?
They do not.
Okay.
There is a sub-faction ability for that, but we don't have access to it in Leviathan.
Okay.
Can we get a confirmation from our table boss what they're conferring about right now? Oh, chat likes the new view even better. Well, thank you, players.
All right, there you go. Thank you. No R&D was done that turn, which may be what they were talking about. Oh, I'm about to sneeze, chat. I'm sorry. Let me turn myself off. All right. I think I avoided blowing out anybody's eardrums. So that may have been a discussion as that there was no R&D on that turn.
Yeah, so Charlie also there considering an Encircle the Prey on the Ravener unit since they do have the Burrower keyword, but realizing that would donate the objective to Joel, giving him a 12-point primary. Joel could have just had the middle objective.
Yeah.
Because
if we
and so Charlie does have
would it have been 8 models on the objective? Would he have had the objective if he killed the warrior?
Yeah, all he needs to do is attack the warrior and kill it, and then there's no objective secured for Charlie there, and Deathleaper takes
so
it
just
regardless.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, it just doesn't matter at that point. Sorry.
Yep.
I had a little bit of a brain short there.
Yeah, I know. I think that Joel was, when he was talking about his turn, he was considering the fact that the Reaper of Obliterax does ignore the damage ignore rolls on the Raveners. He can get the highest raw amount of damage through on them. So if we're talking about the game in terms of wounds dealt, then that would certainly be the most efficient play if he's not worried about scoring those primaries. But Charlie does, he did take, he has Stranglehold, right?
I think they both have Stranglehold.
Yeah, so you just immediately deny Charlie a Stranglehold.
Yep.
That
may just be a straight up misplay. Sometimes that happens.
All right, fair enough. He kills 1 less model, I think, and he ended up killing 2 Raveners, which with the weird mismatch of damage, it is only a 3 damage weapon, which applies mortal wounds at the end of combat, which means there's going to be some overage on your damage. He doesn't kill that many Raveners, and killing 1 warrior and denying your opponent 3 points is certainly worth GCP in a situation where it could come down to a very close game at the end here. Both players scoring 8 points pretty consistently, and we cannot forget that while the scores do look in favor of Joel right now, there are 15 points on the table unscored for Charlie, depending on how his to the lasts end up.
So if this Hive Tyrant survives, that's 5. If the Horospex?
The
Haruspex survives, that's 5. And then one of the Malaceptors, which we're going to assume whichever one is harder to get to, is also worth 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it's the one in the center of the objective, so it's harder to get line of sight to.
So we do have a bombing run pivot by the Harpy.
Yep.
Flown over, pivoted, and continued past.
I wonder if we're going to hit the Hive Tyrant with that in potentially trying to set up a kill on that guy if we can kill some of his supporting screening units.
No, I did not. We were up to date with Mortal Wounds. Yeah.
I kind of like this Haruspex play from Charlie. He's aware that the Haruspex is very difficult to kill if it's not being targeted by your opponent's entire army specifically. So just keeping it as this big idiot who isn't going to die unless you allow your opponent to kill it, and can absolutely dominate the end of the game. If you have a Haruspex left on the table and your opponent is, down to the dregs of their models because you've been trading Raveners into them all game, the Haruspex is just going to win you the game.
Yeah.
He goes in, your opponent is trying to take objectives and hold objectives and have objectives secured. He's just going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
And then also be worth 5 points at the end of the game because of that to the last.
A little bit of Hero Hammer on the Tyranid side.
Yeah.
Although I guess all of
more
the
like Hippo Hammer, am I right? Because he is the hungriest of hippos.
The hungriest of Haruspexes. Hungry
Haruspexes.
I feel like there's a market for that game if you can get there first, Trevi.
Absolutely. I think in my Haruspex video I made that joke a lot of times.
Oh, okay, good. Well, you got to get in touch with Milton Bradley. You got to get this in production.
Yeah. We'll do a Kickstarter. How's that?
That would probably shock you how well that would go.
They have, instead of being like a mouth that reaches out, it's a little like sticky elastic that shoots and it grabs things with the tongue.
The old, like when we were kids, you had the little sticky hand thing.
Exactly.
You would, like, do that. Yeah,
exactly.
Just like that.
It's like a slingshot that just flicks those things.
Yeah, Nid Strings echoing the Haru Hammer.
Yeah. So our support units moving out here for Joel. That is one of the I think understated powers of the Tyranid Codex is that all of these units that are sitting in the back here right now, right? We have for Joel in the back bottom left corner, we have 3 warriors, a unit of Zoanthropes, and Charlie making his best Tickle Finger Boy impression back there with his wiggly arms. And these Venomthropes. The Venomthropes have 15 attacks in total. The Warriors are good both at shooting and melee, and the Zoanthropes do a D3+3 smite. These are support units. They're going to be flinging out immense damage in the mid to late game, and that's I think what we're about to see here, and what we have seen from the Venomthropes committing in earlier.
All right, so we did 2. This is bombing horror. Maybe that means Haru.
Maybe Haruspex. Yeah, it looks like there is a damage marker there next to the Haruspex.
Well, regardless, he went after it to the last, which kind of makes a little bit of sense.
It makes total sense, yeah. And especially it's a to the last without an ignore mechanic, which the Hive Tyrant does have. So the Hive Tyrant may just take 0 damage from a bombing run on it.
Let's get some more or less guaranteed damage starting to... again, this is an attrition piece. We just want to add damage up over the course of the game. We are almost certainly going to see... Well, I don't know. Joel's down to 2 CP. Do you think he encircles his Harpy again? Is there anything better he needs to save the CP for?
You gotta believe that you do. He has 2 CP. It sounds like one of them is going to be a cast again on a Malaceptor to get another brace of mortal wounds through. The other one is going to potentially be that encircle. Because that Harpy is just dead to a Hive Tyrant.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
There is no universe in which that Harpy survives that Hive Tyrant, I don't believe.
I guess I don't know enough about Tyranid's stratagems to know, is there anything we need to save in the bank for this coming turn that would be more important than keeping a Harpy alive?
Yeah, not really. Tyranids don't have too much in terms of combat strats. They have some defensive ones and rerolls on the monsters, but the monsters aren't the ones doing the fighting right now. It's mortal wounds and it's infantry. So don't really need to bank too much CP to protect your guys.
So Neurothrope is casting 3 spells this turn.
So the Ravener's getting hit by smites here from the Malaceptor. It looks like the Neurothrope cast an additional power to get all of his buffs down. So we have Catalyst, Onslaught, and Hive Nexus from the Neurothrope active on that Malaceptor in the center there to make it as tanky as possible. And now it's just going to be blowing away these hubristic Tyranids that have engaged them in the center.
That's a fancy word, Trevor.
Right? It was on my word of the day calendar this
Nice.
morning. I'm just kidding. I don't have one of those.
So Catalyst on the Warriors, Onslaught on the Venoms, and a Smite.
Very nice. Yeah, the Venoms moving up pretty aggressively. They'd have a little bit of a tough charge into those Raveners in the center objective, but we might as well try to get them into the fight.
All right, there goes another one. Down to 2 Raveners left. Or no, wait, is that middle one a Tyranid warrior or is that a Ravener?
Yeah, the one to the right is a warrior.
Okay.
The
so
one to
one
the left is a
Ravener, one
Ravener.
warrior, and then some Venomthropes over there, the green ones.
Yep. You can tell because the warriors has that big long tail coming off the back,
okay.
and the Raveners have their tail curled up.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a complete xenophobic racist to everything. I'm more than interested to learn to tell the difference between Tyranids. It's just the elves I don't care about.
That's fair.
I'm happy to learn how to tell the Tyranids apart right before they eat me.
Yeah, you're going to become a xeno-entomologist and learn the precise difference between all of the different alien bug species.
Here's now this is mildly off topic. If there was an actual job of studying Tyranid biology, how long do you think the degree would be valid before all the biology changed?
Like 6 seconds.
Not a very a viable profession at that rate, unfortunately. And again, like, how are you even going to get close? They're just going to eat you.
Yeah.
What are you going to study? All right, so Cindermal's doing actions. He does mortals to the Venoms.
Yep. So using that Hive Nexus to get its own imperative to allow it to cast its action and powers. And here we go, delivering some mortal wounds into those models in the middle. But it looks like Encephalic Diffusion actually failed this turn, which is a pretty big deal because, like we talked about before, the Death Spitter profile being Strength 5 is disproportionately affected by a -1 Strength effect.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping off down to Strength 4, meaning it wounds the Malaceptor on 6, and it wounds the Tyranid Warriors on a 5.
All right, so we picked up 1 Venomthrope and some mortals here. How many mortals would that have taken to kill this Venomthrope over here?
So they're 4 wounds each.
So we've done, it looks like Raveners are 3.
Raveners are also 4.
Are also 4. So we've done 7 mortal wounds right here. Okay.
Yep.
Gotta update that mortal. Joel has now pulled ahead in the mortal wound race, Trevi.
Ooh. You would hope so. You would hope that the 3 Malaceptor list would do more mortal wounds than the 2 Malaceptor list.
Well, it's been shockingly close thus far.
It has. You're not wrong. I do think that the defensive posture that Charlie has adopted is certainly helping him in that arena.
It's almost like he understands what his opponent's list does as a Tyranid player. Probably better at getting ready for it than a non-Tyranid player.
Yeah. And it definitely goes to show you the power of the Premier Malaceptor, that you can build 2 into your list, not take a sub-faction that makes the most use of their synergies, but just play in a way that makes them deal massive amounts of damage over the course of the game. And I do want to commend Charlie for playing them in a really different manner. Joel is using them kind of as a cudgel with which to bludgeon his opponent, and Charlie is using them as this reactive sort of control piece that where he can leverage the fast threat ranges of his army to force you to come into him, and then if you do, you get to deal massive damage back to them with the psychic overload.
So the not wounded, but the Malaceptor down here in the bottom right has finished off the wounded Ravener that was in the middle of the table, and then did an additional 3 to Deathleaper on the other side of the wall. We have now moved on to Warriors shooting the Venomthropes in the middle of the table. So we're out of the psychic phase. Our mortal wound counter has gone up to 27. Trevi, we're sitting at 47 right now across the game.
Oof.
We're getting there.
Brutal.
We're getting there. We may be able to revisit
the hashtag 69 mortals.
Hashtag 69 mortals.
I do appreciate, especially in the mirror match, how much damage actually is dealt by conventional weapons, because both Tyranids are pretty good at shutting down other Tyranid psychic powers.
Yeah.
So they make things just really awkward to convert mortals.
Yeah, people in our YouTube chat talking about how non-Tyranid players struggling to understand what's going on, but they appreciate the expertise that you're bringing. You are, we joke about you as the Tyranid expert, but
Put me on
you
the
have
spot
provided
here.
provided valuable insight to those of us who have not picked up a Tyranid codex in this game. So we really do appreciate it, Trevi.
So it sounds like the Carnifex is now firing with that big 4 damage Venom Cannon profile. And just going to pick those Venoms right up. Yep. 4 damage gun into a 4 wound model. Feels good to shoot.
That sounds like good math.
It's nice when it happens. Yeah. It's like fitting a block in Tetris. You're just like, satisfaction.
Have you seen there was a YouTube video or something about a year ago of just someone figured out that little game that babies have where you put shapes in holes, everything fits in the square hole, it just doesn't matter. I feel like when you got a 4 damage gun, everything looks like a 4 wound model, Trevi.
So now Harpy trying to finish off the Zoanthropes. They are screening the Hive Tyrant right now. I don't believe so. The Harpy itself is not going to be able to attack the Hive Tyrant because the Zoanthropes are going to be closer to it. But again, it is a 4 damage gun into a 4 wound model, so we get that little serotonin pulse right there if it dies.
Now, despite the winged Hive Tyrant being a large winged boy, the Harpy cannot charge it as an aircraft, correct? Even though it has fly, or is it allowed to charge?
It has to hover.
Okay, so it cannot charge it this turn.
Yes. Yeah. I will just confirm that, but I believe that it cannot charge unless it's in hover mode.
Okay. Thought maybe you could charge like other aircraft, but obviously the Flying Hive Tyrant isn't that anyway, so wasn't
yeah.
Sure.
Flying Hive Tyrant sometimes feels like an aircraft unit, but it itself is just a flyer.
Yeah, and just looking at the overhead shot here, they just look like two things that we ready to scrap in the air, just tangle up like an old dragon fight.
Yeah. Let me. I'll learn you a little secret here, though.
Okay.
Let's say even if the Harpy can charge that Hive Tyrant,
it's not going to do it.
It's not going to win that fight. So here comes the Warriors into their little buddy Warrior there.
Now, what I do love here is what I'm seeing with the placement of these Warriors, that if we can pick this up like we expect to, then consolidate in such a way that we have completely potentially blocked that outer edge of the objective so that none of the Raveners that are geared up in that ruin corner can get past the Tyranid Warriors. That may make it a lot easier to make sure that none of the potential shenanigans to take this objective away could occur.
Yep. It looks like must have been a very long charge there because we went light years with that Warrior unit.
What I'm talking about, chat, is if we can see what I would love to see, just as any kind of melee player loves to see this, if we can put our unit right here on the edge where the back part of the bases are holding the objective, and we just don't let anything get close enough to touch that on a charge, we could potentially, through any kind of high-speed shenanigans that the Kraken army wants to load into the chamber, may be able to hold that objective through the next turn regardless. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen, but I'd love to see this kind of positioning. Honestly, I feel like when you're taking objective, you either need to be on that side or you want to be over here on this side. There's almost never a reason to be in the middle of the objective.
Yep. Unless, like we talked about previously, in our previous game, you elected to switch out your adaptation for everybody gets to heroically intervene.
Turns out army-wide heroic interventions are a good reason to stand in the middle of the objective.
You just decided, I would like to be Space Wolves today, please.
Especially when all of your models cover up 50% of the objective in the first place.
Yeah. So it can charge only aircraft units.
Okay.
If it is flying in the air, but there are no aircraft on the other Tyranid side of the table. So,
and as you pointed out,
maybe
charging, maybe an aircraft charging the Lord of the Swarm over here, the Flying Hive Tyrant, not the best play.
Yeah, that man is equipped with the one and only Reaper of Obliterax, and he will both reap and Obliterax you. If you
we do not want the
Harpy
to get obliteraxerated.
Yeah, the Harpies, I think 4 to strength 6 attacks are not gonna to be enough to punch through.
You know what? I just assume the Harpy can do everything because that's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah. Its melee attacks are the 10 d6 bombs it rolls every turn.
That's fair. Now, I do have one moment that I feel like I need to ask this question before we pass this turn. You know what I haven't seen in any of these lists, Trevi? I haven't seen old Swarmy. And I grew to love Swarmy on your channel, Why is Swarmy not come out to play in any of these events that Tyranids are winning?
So the sad part about Swarmy is that he, like other Hive Tyrants, is also a Hive Tyrant. And that means that the more Swarm Lords you have in your list, the less Hive Tyrants you can have. And Hive Tyrants are friggin' sweet. So the downside with Swarmy is that he's almost entirely a support piece. Mm-hmm. He's very good in melee, but he isn't particularly fast.
Right.
So he's mostly there to put buffs on your units. But if you're playing an army like that, you'd often want a Hive Tyrant in your list anyway that also contributes to the game.
Right.
And Swarmlord by himself doesn't contribute anything until the very late game when he can get second in melee.
And the reason people used to bring him doesn't exist anymore, right?
Right. He no longer double moves your army. Instead, he gives a core unit full rerolls to hit and the same or a different core unit objective secured or double objective secured, which are both phenomenal abilities to have, and he is a wonderful force multiplier. It's just the tension of whether you'd like to take Swarmlord to do cool reroll things or a guy with Shard Gullet who can shoot a tank to death every turn.
Yeah, as it turns out, you don't need to reroll your dice if there aren't any things to attack in the first place.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So realistically, yeah, I think it's just that if Swarmlord didn't take up a Hive Tyrant slot, I think you would actually see him quite a bit because he's very powerful. And even in lists like Charlie's list here, where you have a lot of Raveners, giving those full rerolls and objective secure to the Ravener unit that you're loading into the Kraken cannon to shoot at your opponent is really strong. But the opportunity cost there is a little bit awkward. So it looks like we have a unit of gargoyles popping up in here.
Joel, a little bit of turnabout is exactly what we would hope to see here. Joel had originally forgot to put his Harpy on the table. It appears that Charlie forgot to put his gargoyles on the table, and we're now letting him do that. Not wanting to feel bad. It would be very unfair to let one player do it and not the other player for sure.
Yeah. Did they were those encircled also?
I think they may have been in Deep Strike Reserve or Outflank.
Oh, Strategic Reserve, maybe?
Yes.
Yep. Interesting. Okay, well, fair enough.
Whether or not that's the way you would like to see that resolved, I do feel that it's turnabout is fair play, that we let one player put something they forgot. We should definitely let the other player do it also. Would seem rather unfun if we did not at that point.
And well, this is... we are moving into bottom of turn 3, right? So they just come on.
What are we forgetting about then? Let's see. Maybe they were encircled and we didn't realize it? I don't remember ever seeing them on the screen, so.
Yeah, our I thought they were in the ruin chat. I agree with that. Oh, maybe they... Oh, I think what happened is they were in the ruin and then they encircled. Is what it looks like, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I still remember seeing it on the screen. That's why I'm confused.
Yep.
That's fine. Which makes sense. It did seem a little weird to only put Deathleaper in that bottom right ruin by itself the entire game.
Yeah. So I remember them moving in on the bottom of the first turn into the ruin and then disappearing.
Okay, so that makes sense then. Yeah, because I had at one point questioned why do we only send Deathleaper down here to hold this objective? That seems aggressive.
So the tension there is that we want those gargoyles to drop into the back. I mean, the reason you encircle the gargoyles is so that they can complete retrieve Nakpun data.
Yeah.
But Joel being able to go first, it has such a board presence right now. I think the only place that he hasn't screened out is this far left side of the table where you cannot knock one data.
Yeah.
So he would love nothing more than for Charlie to put those gargoyles there, and then he shoots the entire unit to death with warriors and then passes the turn.
Yep. I did want to take a moment while we see Charlie's movement phase here. We're seeing a lot of love for the commentary this weekend in chat, and we just want to say thank you guys. We appreciate it. We've had a great time. We really wouldn't be able to do this without your support because there would be no reason for our bosses to pay for this. Or my boss. Sure, Trevi just gets to come do stuff. I'm sure Trevi on his channel, me on our channel, we would not do these things if you guys were not appreciative of it and didn't enjoy it. So we are ever so thankful that you guys have enjoyed spending time with us this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. I do want to thank a bunch of people came up and said hi and that they appreciate the streams and that does, warms the cockles of my cold tortoid heart. And it was great to see everybody, and it's been awesome to do coverage all weekend. So I think as is expected, we do see the Hive Tyrant moving in to fight the Harpy. And I think despite the fact that the Harpy is, just kidding.
I feel like we lost a wing there.
Nope, goodbye.
I feel like
Yeah,
I see a wing flopping around.
I believe that Charlie's did break his Hive Tyrant earlier in the day and has been trying to reattach that wing all weekend. I've seen him fitzing with some super glue on that guy. Unfortunately, the Hive Tyrant wing's pretty precarious connection point on those things. So
it also unfortunately seems like an important part of the model as far as because you can draw line of sight to the wings, correct?
Yeah. Tyranids, they don't love true line of sight. They make true line of sight rules cry.
If all Tyranid models only cared about the base underneath them, I think they would probably be even more broken.
Yep. Fun to see a live streaming face to me. You should tune into my live streams.
I have seen Trevi's
I live stream.
He does hobby stuff now.
Every day, in fact, most of the time. Monday, Wednesday, Thursday on twitch.tv/tactical-tortoise-tv. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday on tactical-tortoise.com over on YouTube. And almost every time my face is viewable in the camera.
There may have been some older videos where that had not begun yet, but I think Trevi has caught up with the times. People know this is the marketing right here.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess for you it's no, you don't have Harry. You had Harry
They come for the tactical tortoise, but they stay for this mug right here.
I was saying the hype ravener.
Hype ripper.
The hype ripper. That may have been the face you're marketing the other day.
I almost switched into my hype ripper shirt at the start of this game, but it was a little dirty, so I didn't want to.
That's fair. As the person who's been sitting next to you all weekend, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so the Tyrant, the Tyrant's magnetized. It's not broken.
Oh, okay.
So that's good. So the Malaceptors are moving to be within 12 inches of the Harpy, who did not encircle, it appears. The Harpy is still on the table.
It does look like Joel spent all of his CP down, so he was out of command points in order to do that.
That would be why you can't encircle.
Yep.
Turns out 0 is less than however much encircle the prey costs.
That's true. No, the third unit of Raveners, the last unit in the Ravener cannon going out into the center here, as well as what looks like another Tyranid warrior unit to fight the good fight against the Tyranid warriors in the middle and try to obsect that objective away. I do want to say that the one thing in Joel's army I'm really impressed with is that pick of the Deathleaper. Because, Deathleaper is a fine profile in and of herself, but the fact that the army put so much forward pressure, you put 3 Malaceptors in the middle of the table, a big brick of Tyranid warriors, a bunch of Carnifexes. The only downside is that your objective secured is a little bit tough to source, but the Deathleaper gives you a very difficult to kill objective secured model that is character protected.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get at. It's behind all of the models that are physically in front of it, body blocking for it. And if you can't kill all of the Malaceptors and then kill the Deathleaper, you can't get rid of that objective secured. And that's really making it hard for Charlie to take that middle objective.
Also, just I can imagine a lot of games where the other person is just not worried about Deathleaper based on a bunch of giant models on the other side of the table barreling down.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, what could that do? It's just a little character, and then it hits you as hard as a Space Marine captain, and you're like, oh, just kidding. I understand now. Please stop.
All right, I thought for a moment we were about to see the end game commence as one Haru boy.
One hungry boy over here moving out.
Was about to come out, but it looks like Charlie.
One more turn.
Maybe we need to wait one more turn.
We'll wait one more turn. Yeah, he's running out of space, I think, to place that guy. If he moves out, he's vulnerable to the heavy venom cannons, and that's going to be a little bit awkward.
But we're getting there. The end game is commencing.
I'm so curious about this. The decision not to go for this Harpy. I mean, you do have to get rid of the Malaceptors. They represent so many mortal wounds, and it's so brutal. But that Hive Tyrant will just kill that Harpy, and you don't have to deal with it anymore. It's just gone.
He went out of the way to make sure that the Malaceptors were all within 12 inches of the Harpy, so I don't know if that's part of his plan is to pick it up in the Psychic phase. The Hive Tyrant do something else.
Yeah, it does look like. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So we're going to try to at least deal a bunch of damage to it.
We're not ignoring it, for sure.
Right. So the Zoanthrope Smite was actually denied. Oh, my God.
That's not the way we wanted to start the Psychic phase.
Yeah. The Zoanthrope Smite is very reliable from the standpoint of casting, but actually getting it off can be a little bit tougher because if you roll low, that bonus isn't going to get you too far up.
Plus, as you pointed out earlier, shadows in the warp do affect other Tyranids.
There be a shadow in that warp right there.
I like to imagine this fight is happening on 2 planes. We have this fight Then we also have like the warp shadows all fighting each other simultaneously.
Right. Yeah. There's another fight, but it's in like a zany, madhouse.
Yeah. I imagine like
this
some
is
kind of
the
like
mind.
Doctor
This is your
Strange
mind.
vibe.
Yeah.
Like Doctor
The walls
Strange
are
Mirror
folding in on
World.
themselves. Yeah. Everyone's jumping off of the ceiling.
I would watch that show. I would watch Tyranids.
I
like
did
weird
watch that
abstract
show.
Tyranids fight each other.
Yeah. Dr. Swarmlord and the multiverse of Malaceptors.
Yeah. Dr. Swarmlord and Malaceptor the Madness at the very least. My question then it becomes, who is the Haruspex of that movie? Is it the giant tentacle monster at the beginning? Okay.
It was the big thing with the mouth at the very beginning.
Yeah. The one in the middle of the city.
Yeah. Oh no, in the place where they're trying to get the book.
Yeah. Okay. Not the starfish. The thing before starfish.
Yeah. That was trying to eat them.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, eating things, we are trying to eat the brains of the Harpy currently with the smites. Looks like 2 damage already dealt to it.
All right, we're priming up the sharks with frickin' laser beams.
Mm-hmm. Those Malaceptors lining up those psychic overloads to deal 3 damage every time they get a 7+ to cast. And with the synaptic tendrils from the Neurothrope, you can put Warp Siphon on both Malaceptors, allowing them both to cast on 3d6, drop the 2 lowest. That gives you about, if I remember my math off the top of my head, about a 78% chance to get off your 7+.
That seems high.
Yep. So down to 5 wounds on the Harpy now after the Psychic phase.
All right. I'm slacking on the mortal wound counter. So how many mortals have we done to the Harpy this turn?
8.
8, so we're to 28.
Wow, Charlie Andre taking the lead again.
Yeah. I really thought coming into this that there was going to be an abject lead, dramatic overpowering of mortals from the triple Malaceptors. Charlie really proving that 2 is pretty damn good. You don't necessarily need 3. There's a lot of other stuff in the book. Now, to be fair, we did have that one absolutely abysmal psychic phase, unfortunately, from the triple Malaceptors.
We did.
So that
we did
probably
have
explains a
the
lot.
Malaceptor combo fail. It utterly failed to go off with 2 failed powers and a deny.
Yeah. So that probably explains why everything is so close. Because that was a psychic turn.
Yeah.
Right? That was a turn they had dialed up their synaptic imperative to do all
I believe
of their
it was, yeah.
All right, so we have Catalyst on the Raveners. Somebody asking why Raveners? My answer would be sometimes you like to shoot snakes out of a gun.
The game is played on a flat board, right? And a flat surface. What's another word for a flat surface? As someone who knows geometry, yeah.
A plane.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So would you say there's snakes on that there plane?
You got me, Trevi. Oh, I'm so happy you did that.
Amazing. Yeah, can we get a time check from the table judge or the table boss here?
I'm not exactly sure how that worked out with our earlier medical breaks, but we will see what we can find out.
I'm sure we paused the clock. Yeah, for those who don't know the Ravener profile, they come with a free Death Spitter built in, so 3 Strength 5 AP 2 shots base. And then they have 5 base attacks with an AP2 weapon that can be upgraded to AP4, or you can have 2 additional attacks with AP1. So they can have up to 7 melee attacks each for 30 points on a pretty relatively fast and durable body. They are a hyper-efficient damage unit, and especially when you can increase their speed even faster.
All right, so currently both players have 20 minutes left on their clock, but obviously we are in Charlie's turn.
So it looks like the Harpy is going down. And it does freak out on a zone throw.
Okay. Take what we can get. That counts as mortals.
Yeah, and the Harpy's death throw is interesting. It's a little bit longer than other units, but I guess because it is an airplane or something.
It's like parading, like an orc or something.
Yeah, he flies into the unit for within 6 inches rather than 3 normally.
All right. And did we hear over the mic how many mortals it exploded for?
It was 2, it looks like.
29. Trevi, We have looks like
57?
57 mortal
Just
wounds.
12 to go. Hashtag 69 mortals.
Can we do it again? Can we run it back, chat? We may not stop there, but can we get there? Can we land on the number?
So we are, looks like declaring charges. So I believe the Harpy was pulverized by mortal wounds from the Malaceptors. Wasn't enough to kill it because it is broadcasting a shadow in the warp aura, but the shooting from the Raveners and the warrior units on the ground was able to kill it. Now we're going with these Raveners into the warriors. They have an excellent profile at dealing with warriors because they are only 1 damage, so they don't care about the potential activation of the -1 damage strat, although Joel is out of CP, so we don't have to worry about that. And they are very high AP, so they're going to punch through in the entirety of their armor save.
People in chat talking about how that seems to be a small amount of time. It is still 40 minutes left in the game, and we have been streaming for about 2.5 hours, so even with the stoppage, that seems about right.
Yep.
Because this stream has been longer than the current stream, as we did have that one technical glitch that we had to start a little bit over in the first turn.
Yep, so it looks like one Ravener has engaged into the Deathleaper in the left-hand side of the center objective. Can we move to our glitch cam real quick here? Take a close look at what's going on in the middle. So we can see there, one Ravener engaging, the Ravener in pink engaging the Deathleaper. The remainder of the Raveners, and those are Tyrant Guard next to the Malaceptor, fighting the Tyranid warriors. And it looks like we're going to try to go for a kill on the Deathleaper. I'm not sure we can fit a third Ravener in there.
We do have to give this shout out. Nurgle Matt has been at this event. He has been playing in the Death or Glory doubles event. And Nurgle Matt, the patron saint of 40K streamers, has won a trophy.
Nurgle Matthew!
All right.
Congratulations, buddy. That's super sick. I know Nurgle Matthew, very excited to play Mass Corn Demons. Nurgle Demons, excuse me, not Corn Demons, that would be silly. Nurgle Demons in the doubles event.
If you told me that Nurgle Matt was playing Corn Demon spam, I would be a little confused.
Yeah, well, time to just punch me right in the face.
All right, so Kraken Strat from the Tyrant. Tyrant Guard and Raveners have charged in, and the Malaceptor. 2 Raveners have charged into Deathleaper, and 3 Raveners into the Warriors. So I think we're going to hug it out. I think we're going to have a bunch of sword arms hugging it out here in the middle of the table.
Yep, we're just having a big old fight. So a little bit of a misannouncement of targets is what happened. I believe that Charlie picked up 3 Raveners worth of attacks, which were the Raveners that were going to attack the Warriors, and accidentally said that they were fighting Deathleaper, and they just were able to roll that back and assign that damage to the Warriors. Oh, no, we're just going to reroll the attacks. Yeah, because there is a hit penalty on Deathleaper.
Sure. Yeah, it's so just better to do everything over and have no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Nurgle Matthew, by the way, continuing his patronage here, gifting 10 subs.
Holy crap,
over on
Nurgle
Twitch.
Matt.
Oh, boy. Jacket Spud, Blue Canary, 1893. Crag 979, like past 4. I think that's supposed to be like pasta, but you misspelled it by putting a number in there. Melody, SOXO, Fat Dingo, Johnny Devoe, Bolveric 117, and Spoon, all getting some delicious tier 1 subs. Nurgle Matthew, thank you so much.
Nurgle Matt, thank you so much
for the support.
I have everything minimized so we can see the screen as much as possible. I didn't even notice. So thank you so much for your support. And those of you who have been hanging out with us all weekend, we are currently up to about 300 viewers again.
Hot damn!
We cannot thank you guys enough for spending your weekend with us. Really means a lot that you guys are enjoying the content we're putting out. All right, I kind of want to go back here and see what's going on in the middle of the table, Trevi.
So importantly here, the Tyrant Guard get an additional attack when they're standing within 3 inches of a Hive Tyrant, as we see in the bottom center of the screen there.
It appears that they may be doing so.
Yep. So they're going to be rolling out several of their attacks with their big AP Rending Claws, and then they each have Scything Talons for an additional 2 AP1 attacks to try to pile as much damage into this big warrior brick as we possibly can. It looks like another warrior going down, and now rolling the Scything Talons out.
Trevor, you have a better idea of how these profiles match up with each other. Do you think Joel's Nids can withstand these multiple charges all hitting him at the same time here?
This game, I think, has turned from one in which Joel was, solidly in the lead there, to one in which he is. It looks like it could be up in the air again. It depends a lot on how well this Hive Tyrant fights into the Malaceptor in that bottom edge of the screen there. You can sort of see the Malaceptor poking up over the bottom edge.
So the Malaceptor manages to survive this turn. You think Joel's still got a strong chance? Or a chance, at the very least?
I do think so. Again, we run into a situation where suddenly that Hive Tyrant can't efficiently escape.
Right.
We have to encircle it to keep it safe, and that's always really awkward, especially since the Tyrant Guard have moved up.
Yeah.
Oh,
there goes the Malaceptor.
Okay, wow. Malaceptor gets taken down by the Hive Tyrant with that Reaper of Obliterax.
The Tyrant did use a strat for more attacks, and it clearly paid off.
Yep, so that's Adrenal Surge to give them an additional D3 attacks if they are equipped with Adrenal Glands. A really strong strat, especially with how impactful the Hive Tyrant, each Hive Tyrant attack is. Getting D3 additional of those is a really big deal. There is a universe, though, where that Malaceptor spikes those invulnerable saves and just takes Immortals, but this is not that universe. And that Hive Tyrant triumphantly consolidating back to the Tyrant Guard, so he is unshootable now.
I don't feel like he's running away anymore.
He's in it for the long haul.
Yep.
Classic walk like an Egyptian stance on the Hive Tyrant. Nid strings, absolutely.
That's got to be your next shirt. We got to get the walk like an Egyptian Hive Tyrant.
Walk like a Hive Tyrant.
Yeah.
Walk like an Egyptian.
We'll get there. We'll make one work.
That was perfect. Everything I say is perfect. Don't worry.
Well, as much as I've flubbed things as I've tried to say them this week, and I can't criticize you. You would think, as a man who literally my job is to talk every day for 8 hours, I would be better at it. No, I'm not. It is a skill. Nick Donavati informing me that I just need to get good.
We'll take a look at our overhead camera here while Charlie is repositioning his models there. And it looks like the turn is over, so Joel solidly in control of that center objective still, denying a stranglehold point finally for Charlie. This would have, I think...
This will give him a 12 also, right?
It will give him another 12. I think both these players probably looking to max their primary, and I have a sneaking suspicion they both probably will get there or close. I think this game, if that Hive Tyrant, when it had fought on death, had blocked the stranglehold on Charlie's half by killing that Tyranid warrior, I wonder if this game might have been really difficult for Charlie to come back into. Now missing a stranglehold, that is a little awkward for him. But
so the other problem is he's missed an R&D so far. There was a turn he didn't get in R&D at all. So he has to hit it in every quadrant the rest of the game to get that as well.
Yeah. Joel here being absolutely excellent at screening out those R&Ds and especially preventing that encircle the prey from going off to allow those gargoyles to jump into a table corner.
So if we're relatively confident that we think the primary objectives might be a bit of a push by the end of this game. So now the only way to win a game is who's winning on secondaries. So if we go back and look at that, as you said, stranglehold on Charlie, down 3. He's still going to get 2 more turns. If he can hold Joel off of stranglehold on one of these turns, then it's a wash. That's fine. But he now has to find a turn that Joel does not get stranglehold to not immediately be in a 3-point deficit there. Warp Ritual has been successfully completed 1 time thus far. Again, we've talked about the Tyranid Shadow and the Warp affecting each other, so that's not as easy to do as it could seem with an army full of Psychers.
Right.
We do need to hit it. We're on turn 4, so he needs to hit it 2 more times. It's got to go with both times, or he's just going to stay down. Let's see, he'll be down 9 points on that secondary for Joel. No prisoners. I have no idea how to calculate right now. I'm going to assume that he knows how many things he has to kill to try to max that. So
yeah,
I don't know how else to count that the way I like to count secondaries.
Right now, looking at the no prisoners score on Joel's side of the table, he's getting 1 point for the Gargoyles. He has killed a tiered warrior unit, which is going to be close enough to another point. Plus, he has killed. He's looking to kill all of the Raveners. If he gets rid of this last unit of Raveners, he is going to be getting 6 points for that. So we would be up to 8, and then potentially another point from the Tyrant Guard. Up to 9 plus 2 for the bonus points from the objective. So potentially,
I feel like that's a magic number.
Yeah, if he can clear the center of the table again this turn, he will be up to 11 on no prisoners.
So here's where I think it's Joel's avenue to win this game. If we are correct that the primaries could be a bit of a wash, let's assume that Charlie finds one of these 2 turns, probably maybe turn 5. He could maybe kill, if he can kill enough stuff to hold Joel to missing a stranglehold, so they both get a 12, right? Yep. Let's assume that in that world they wash on stranglehold. If Joel is ahead on stranglehold, it changes this a little bit easier for him. Warp Ritual, let's also assume we're in a world where Warp Ritual does go off twice. We hit 12. R&D goes off twice. We get 12. Both of those are not necessarily easy to get to a 12, but they're the most comparable ones that could come into a tie of sorts on secondary points. So then the game comes down to, can we get over 10 on no prisoners while simultaneously taking away one of the 2 to last models? So I feel like those are the 2 goals that Joel has to have for the rest of this game. Is he needs to finish off getting to that double digit double digit no prisoners total, and he has to find one of these 2 to last targets that he can take out. If he could do both of those things, he seems to be in the position to give himself the most opportunity to win over the last turn and a half.
Yep. Now, the players discussing how the Carnifex charges are going to work. We do see those 2 Carnifexes on the right-hand side of the screen. Charlie has set it up so that if one Carnifex can charge both the Malaceptor and the Tyrant Guard in the center there, he can move far enough to open up space for the second Carnifex to charge in and essentially create a little conga line of Carnifexes. A Carnifex train, if you will.
A Karnga line, maybe. I don't know. See, I didn't do good on that one. I don't know. Karnga line?
A Karnga line. There you go. We did it.
Oh, no. My wife is telling me to brace myself in chat. That can't be good. Let me tell you guys real quick.
Can we get a look at the imperative this turn for
absolutely. Joel? Let me tell you guys real quick. If you have not gone out and found a woman to marry that loves 40K as much as you do, highly suggest it. Game changer when your wife loves 40K the same way you do.
Oh, no. There's some bad, don't look at the chat, Lyle. There's some bad news in there.
Okay. Charlie got the Malaceptor imperative, and Joel got the Warrior imperative.
Okay.
Right. Oh, my. You know what?
I guess, interestingly, Joel doesn't have access currently to the Hive Tyrant imperative, which allows you to fall back and charge. Which would have been great here because he could pull out with Deathleaper and with the Warriors and then charge back in if they need to. But instead, the Warriors are just going to be standing here and body blocking, and we're going to hope to deal our damage with the Carnifexes this turn. Looks like we do have a Catalyst going down on the Warriors there, trying to get some smites off into these models in the center.
My child wants to play elves, Trevi. I don't know how to handle this news.
Well, what child?
Yeah, you know what? They're just a stepdaughter. I could disown that easily, right?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Yikes.
All right. I want to be clear to chat. I absolutely adore my stepdaughter, and I would never disown her, even if she chose to play pointy ears. All right, so the Hive Dex is on the Warriors. 3 Mortals has gone off onto the Raveners, and then the Neurothrope got denied.
Yeah.
Oh. Do this for a moment. Got to update these mortal wounds.
So another 3 mortal wounds onto the Raveners there. Starting some psychic overloads from that Malaceptor. And Charlie referencing that he has no obsec on the point currently, so keeping Raveners that are on the objective alive right now doesn't matter because he doesn't have any way to kill the Warriors on Joel's turn, which means he has no way to take the objective away. Not to mention that Deathleaper is also there.
I just want to let the chat know we're currently at 62 mortals.
We're close.
It's so close. Can we run it back, chat? Can we land on hashtag 69 Mortals 2 games in a row? All right, so that was for Psychic Stream, not a Smite. Smite did 6.
Yeah, between the D3 and the additional 3 from the Malaceptor, so that's another 6 onto the Ravener unit.
Trevi, we're at 68 Mortals. Can we find one just for a moment, chat? Can we
almost
can
there?
we win for
Almost
a second? We gotta go back to the mortal counter. It's so close.
Looks like the next power there got denied, but I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Ritual was denied.
Oh no!
That's a big deal. We said that in this magic world, ritual and R&D equal. Now, to be fair, it could be worse if we can deny R&D on all 4 quadrants. If we deny one of them, then that could still be a close wash.
Yeah, and we still have one more battle round to complete the Psychic Ritual the next turn to get us our 7.
Yeah.
But that's not what you want out of a secondary. You don't want 7 points.
So that means, if Joel and Charlie tie on Stranglehold, if Warp Ritual gets to 7, and we take one of the 2 to last away, if No Prisoner stops at exactly 11, and R&D does manage to go off on a 12, then that's a tie game. So it could come down to can Charlie or can Joel Stranglehold all 5 turns?
How hard do you think Joel will kick himself if it comes down to a tie game and he didn't deny that Stranglehold that he could have?
That would be rough. But this is what we want to see. These kind of close down to the wire finals.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad that the game has ended up this way. And it looks like the first Carnifex did get in, but it because some of the Tyrant Guard have been removed, the second Carnifex will not have a charge lane into the middle, so only one Carnifex fighting the Malaceptor there. Unlikely that it kills the Malaceptor, but it may tickle a little bit.
Raise in chat. I do want to be clear. It's 60 mortals. We are 68 mortals in the game.
Yeah, across 2 armies.
Yeah, we did 69 mortals against Harlequins last turn by Charlie, or last game by himself. I'm sorry, by Joel. But the Harlequins player had no real way to stop that from happening. So
yeah,
we just kind of racked them up.
So it looks like I believe the Venomthropes snake eyes their charge into the Raveners. Totally whiffed, and Joel not willing to spend the CP to get in. The Zoanthropes charging now.
We're at the point of the game where everything's being thrown at the fan.
Wow.
Throwing it in there, see what sticks.
Someone needs to make objective markers that are hashtag 69 mortal wins.
You know what? We do have our own objective markers here at Death or Glory, and I might fight for that one.
I know a guy. I think we can make that happen, chat.
Just hashtag 69 wounds.
Hashtag 69
my face
mortal
just
wounds.
Double thumbs up in the front of it.
Incredible.
Oh, apparently we're a little loud with our hashtag 69 excitement.
Yeah, the ambient noise in the venue now getting much lower now that a lot of the other games have wrapped up. So we should probably keep our
we're just so excited, Trevi. We're just too excited.
Yeah, Chad, very much the kitchen sink point of the game. So those, as opposed to Zoanthropes going in, they are very powerful in the psychic phase, not so much in the fight phase. Only 2 attacks with a 5+ ballistics or weapon skill, Deathleaper going in to try to kill those Raveners, and it looks like she is going to knock one of them out, leave another one down on 2 wounds, and engaging the remainder of the unit. So the Deathleaper in the center of the screen there fighting a single Tyrant Guard that's in front of the Hive Tyrant. It doesn't look like we've based the Tyrant Guard, so the Tyrant Guard is going to move to try to get whatever attacks it wants. And I think it's going into the Carnifex. Oh no, this is we are going to be attacking into the Deathleaper. Malaceptor fighting the Carnifex. And puts 2 damage through.
Down to 3.
Yeah, 6 damage being inflicted on the Carnifex there from the Malaceptor. A little bit of the players had a little bit of a strange discussion about wound allocation, which I don't know was entirely correct, but that's okay.
All right. Well, I guess as long as they're agreeing with it in the finals,
it didn't make a difference at the end of the day. Yeah.
You know, it's very hard to play a perfect game of 40k. So
yeah, it wasn't a real thing to make a difference. Joel was remarking that we should roll the Carnifex's damage individually, which, to be fair, you should.
Yeah.
But if your intention is not to reroll any of the damage rolls, it doesn't matter what order you roll them in or whether you roll them together, because they can both do a minimum of 2 damage. So your damage reduction is always going to be 2 across the entire roll.
Sure.
So Charlie went to roll his 4d3 for the 2 Malaceptor rolls. Joel asked him to not do it that way.
That's
which
fair.
is which is technically how it works anyway. So it is fine. It was just an interesting talk. So we are back to Charlie Andre's turn now. It looks like both these Tyranid armies kind of just slapping each other. Charlie, losing a lot of units in the center because his units tend to be lighter and less heavily armored than the Leviathan units, and I think we are just definitely seeing the dynamic of this matchup sort of coming into play, where this Leviathan list is just so difficult to chew through with those transhuman effects and invulnerable saves and Malaceptors. But the Kraken player gets to dictate the engagement however he wants, and now that Hive Tyrant is unengaged,
oh boy,
he's going for it. He's making the play.
Oh. Now, if we get messed up on primary at any point, our talks of potentially winning by 3 or 4 points kind of start to change dramatically.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, I guess if Joel can just get an 8 next turn, he still maxes primary, right? 8, 16, 32, 44, almost maxes primary.
Can you just tell them that the objectives do extend up 5 inches?
Yeah.
The players are agreeing on rules that are wrong. Yeah, 5 inch vertically is the control of an objective marker. Just double checking the core rulebook here. I think that might be relevant if that building is 5 inches tall, because the Hive Tyrant could potentially engage downwards 5 inches and kill the only model controlling that objective, which looks to me to be some warriors. And a Hive Tyrant will certainly kill warriors. So they are having a discussion about it right now. So the judge confirming that it appears that the design of the ruins is greater than 5 inches tall, meaning that a model on the top floor of the ruins cannot control it from that floor.
Interesting.
The weird part is that yeah, okay. So the base would they're determining that essentially the buildings are going to be taller than you can fight down it.
Right. Oh, that would make sense because it's the same height. I believe
Yeah.
The engagement range is 5 inches tall also.
But I guess we're just going to have a discussion about it with our senior judge here.
Sure.
And make sure, because this does matter quite a big deal,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
if that Hive Tyrant can go in and clean out that warrior unit, which is highly likely, he could potentially steal that objective away.
If he can't, then he has to find a way to get the middle.
Yep. Lists from the event as a whole are in Best Coast Pairings chat.
Yeah. Lists for this game are !lists in Twitch, or you could check the description in YouTube.
Yep. Some comments that in some metas, damage rolls tend to be done individually out of habit. That is technically how you are meant to roll out damage rolls. Generally speaking, you can roll them out together in order to save time, but with the foreknowledge that if you do so, you cannot then go back and CP reroll those damage rolls, because you have gained additional knowledge that you wouldn't have had when you would be rerolling those damage rolls. In this situation, the damage rolls were not being rerolled, so it would not have mattered if they get.
I feel like you could still functionally do that pretty fast if you just held one of them and fast rolled the other damage if you wanted to reroll one.
Yeah, a lot of times what you'll see is if a roll is potentially very important. A lot of times, especially saving throws or damage rolls, players will save 1 or 2, roll the rest, take whatever that result is, and use that to inform their last several rolls. Yeah.
Don't want anyone out there to think that if you're not slow rolling every single dice, you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah, chat to confirm, the new Tyranid FAQ is not in play for this event because it was released like 25 minutes before the first round game was paired.
Like literally, Trevi sat down and told me about it, and I had been setting up the stream all morning, and I had no idea yet.
Yep. I had to take a very fast shower for the first day of commentary because I made a video in bed about it.
Had some content
before coming down to commentate. So we moved the Neurothrope in the back there. You can see him top right corner, out of deny range of any of Joel's psychic powers, and it looks like we have put a catalyst onto the Haruspex going onto the middle. I think the late game is well and truly here because we have opportunistic advanced that Haruspex into the center of the table, ready to dive that into a unit of Tyranid warriors and get that massive Haruspex spike of damage in on them.
Confirming some important information with our table boss right now. Oh, great. So yes, Judge has ruled that the ruin height is exactly 5 inches tall, and so he can both engage the Tyranids or the warriors underneath and control that objective from the roof of the building.
Fair enough.
So that is how we're playing.
It gets a little interesting if you are using exact measurements like that, because you measure from a base, and a base also has verticality to it. So if you are even 5.1 inches away, you would measure from the top of your base, which is about half an inch tall, maybe 2/3 of an inch or a third of an inch tall, and that will add additional height to your engagement zone. So it looks like Malaceptor's here smiting into the Carnifexes. We have one Carnifex down to 6 wounds. The other Carnifex was just killed by the Malaceptor it was engaging. After that 6 damage from the Malaceptor's melee attacks, it's not too surprising.
So wait, how many mortals did we do? What smite?
That would have been...
Was it 1?
3.
We skipped it, Trevi.
That's okay. We still have a chance because one player could get a 60.
All right, sure. Yeah. The dream's not dead.
Right. It's fine. Everything's alive. So Charlie's To the Lasts are currently maxed. It is the Haruspex, one of the Malaceptors. I think we have determined it's the darker colored Malaceptor that is currently holding the top right hand objective, which is a little bit off camera just now. Not the purple Malaceptor that's in the center, as well as the Hive Tyrant. The Hive Tyrant is quickly trying to remove itself from danger, although it has eaten a couple of wounds over the course of the game, just randomly.
To the last check, all the To the Last are still alive.
Yeah, so that is a 15 on To the Last, potentially in the bank there, although we do have, I think we've determined 11 no prisoners for Joel, which is going to do a lot to limit that score lead.
He needs 1. Now, can he get 15 on new prisoners? Is that mathematically
possible? I don't believe so. I don't think there is enough infantry.
So 11 is really as good as
he can get 12 or 13, I think, if he tables the Kraken army.
The way we've got these secondaries lined up, we're assuming that To the Last is matching up with the no prisoners. So 11 versus 10 is really what we're looking for. Anything over that's not dramatic.
Right now, it's looking Joel favored right now, but Charlie is making some very aggressive plays, especially with this Hive Tyrant in the top right-hand corner of the screen. We'll just go ahead and
also did 3 mortals to the Deathleaper in the middle of the table.
Oh, yeah, you got to get rid of that Deathleaper. That objective secured has been brutal for the entirety of the game. Yeah, so we can see the Hive Tyrant in the bottom right-hand or left-hand side of the screen, going to try to kill a warrior unit that's there. And in doing so, could cut Joel down to an 8 or even 4 on primary objective for the top of round 5.
That would be probably backbreaking.
That would be brutal. It depends entirely on who controls the center objective at the end of this turn, I think.
Yeah. No, like the Hive Tyrant is going to do Hive Tyrant things. We're not assuming that has the ability to bounce, honestly. So as long as Joel can if Joel holds the middle, he still has a chance to max primary.
Yeah, Charlie has to not get too cocky with his Reaver of Obliterax like he did earlier, and he has to spend that CP to reroll his wound rolls because those warriors are transhuman, being a Leviathan Synapse unit.
Yeah.
So he is only wounding them on 4s. And he needs his rerolls in order to confirm that those warriors get killed. It looks like Tyrant Guard going into the other warriors on the center objective, trying as hard as we can with a Malaceptor as well to clear those models. That is the only objective secured currently that Joel has in the middle, although we don't have any objective secured for Charlie, so he's going to have to go to raw model count.
Does Charlie even have the raw models in the middle of the table to take that objective?
He does have a unit of Zoanthropes that could get there with a long charge.
Okay. Probably not if you put your Harpy like that. I guess the tail you can just move to the tail, right?
Yeah.
It's just the base you care
so
about.
It looks like we declared a charge with the Malaceptor, realized that would block the Harpy's movement, and so went back to charge with the Harpy first. The Malaceptor then failed the charge as a result, but we did get the Ravener back in the middle there. So 3 total models in the center objective for Charlie.
So we need to kill all the warriors and one of the Zoanthropes, I think they are in the middle.
Yeah, to contest. Yeah. That would be 3-3.
Well, that would put Joel on a 4, and we're assuming Charlie's going to hit a 12. So that should just seal it if he manages to pull that off. Especially if Joel isn't able to kill any of the 2 to last. Like that's kind of, I think we're assuming Joel probably can't win this game without killing at least one of the 2 to last before the next turn's over. I don't know if we calculated a way that could be possible.
So Haruspex went and only killed a single warrior.
That's a big deal.
That's that transhuman coming into play right there.
Wow. They're so bulky for what they just look like as a model.
We have 5+ invulnerable save from Hive Nexus on that warrior as well. We're seeing if the Tyrant Guard can finish him off. And he doesn't. Oh no. A Haruspex and a Tyrant Guard could not kill 2 Tyranid warriors.
Well, that's what Joel needed. If he lost that objective, that was bad. That was incredibly bad. That was probably the game right there. So he's not out of it. Now, that does not mean that Charlie's out of it either, though.
Absolutely.
This is still incredibly close.
We have so many unscored points right now that will trigger at the end of the game that we don't have a perfectly clear picture of how things are going to look. No. Although we do have that the Haruspex is committed now. The Hive Tyrant is also committed. Joel has an opportunity here to kill them. Well, although it's going to be very difficult.
That was the question I was about to ask you. Is the Haruspex is one of the 2 to last? So do we have, with what we see in the middle of the table, do we have the raw damage output to take up that Haruspex?
No, I think Charlie is set up really well here because he has models on either flank of the Haruspex. We can see that Ravener in the left-hand side and the Tyrant Guard in the top right, which are going to eat any mortal wounds that will try to go into that Haruspex before it hits the Haruspex itself, which is a significant portion of the damage output available to remaining for Joel.
So then I guess
no! But the warrior killed the Tyrant Guard in the swing back.
So now we can get in position with the Malaceptor. Oh wow!
No way!
So we can definitely make the Haruspex the closest thing now, and that.
So now that Malaceptor can get tuned up, we can get +1 to cast, and an additional cast from a Power of the Hive Mind, and try to just plow mortal wounds.
That's so
plus
huge.
A Carnifex charge into that Haruspex to try to kill it.
One model making that big of a difference. Just not
that one warrior might be the MVP of this entire game.
He might be about to get upgraded by the Hive Fleet.
He just ate 230 points worth of attacks and then killed a Tyrant's Guard.
Oh my god. That's insane.
What was that swing there?
Trevi, I do need to point out just for a moment, #69.
Oh, Joel's points value right now. Incredible. That's perfect. So we can take a quick look at our score sheet here again for the full score breakdown.
Oh, man,
8 additional points for Joel. That Hive Tyrant in the bottom there did clear out the center objective.
Yeah.
If Charlie really making some big plays here, almost contesting that center objective, but just failing a little bit.
Gary in chat, Charlie is going to go last. Joel is about to take his final turn of the game right now. It is incredibly close. Right, this is turn 4. I'm not great, or turn 5 now, right?
Yeah. So I think that we are according. I think they were below 5 minutes on the clock, and so according to ITC chess clock rules, the players may not be able to start a new battle round, which would give Joel the victory.
So let's see. 15 on 2 to last.
Oh no, he would not score his 8 points on turn 5. Yeah, we'll get Tom, our head judge, in here, and he'll make a determination of what's happening.
So let's see if this is true. We currently have a +4 lead on primary for Joel. We have 15 on 2 to last. We assume there's only 11 on no prisoners, but we have 0 on R&D over the course of the game.
That's going to be killer.
We have the +4 on the 2 last versus the 11 on no prisoners.
Is this R&D versus Warp Ritual fight? These two action secondaries these players are just falling apart on.
Well, we also have the Stranglehold lead. If they don't take another turn, I think that means that Joel would currently win by 6.
Looks like I think we have determined to continue to play the game.
Okay.
So Joel here, the both players I believe relatively low on time. So we are going to be rocking through this last battle round now. Joel throwing a unit of Venomthropes over to the bottom right-hand side of the table to try to get a charge onto that objective.
This is literally coming down to the wire, and I love it.
Oh my
everything
God.
about this.
What a finals game that we have here.
Chat, you don't understand how hard it is for me right now to be whispering to you so that the players don't hear me, because I want to be shouting about how amazing this game is right now.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, this is literally the only game being played left in the GT. Every other tournament has finished.
Importantly, the players did catch that the Harpy did heal for killing a Tyranid warrior. So it is it recuperated a couple of those points that wounds that it had lost. So we are going to try to so Joel confirming that he does not have any additional synaptic imperatives to pick because he's used them all. We've done a Hive Nexus on the Malaceptor. Here goes a Smite going off on a 7, so it will trigger a Psychic Overload.
Oh, we're also I don't know if Tom's ruling was that they can finish their time, because Joel has 6 minutes, but Charlie has 1.5. So they may just be letting them use the. I assume that we would just use the rest of the clock and not just finish the game with no time limit.
I can't imagine that Charlie's turn is going to be too long.
That's fair. To be fair, like the biggest thing for Charlie right now seems to be, does any of his 2 to last die, and can he just move over and take things to get a 12 at the end of the game? If he can't get a 12 or he doesn't get a 15 on 2 to last, and that might just be mathematic at that point. Yeah. We did finally get to 4 on R&D.
And that was the Ravener going down to a Zoanthrope Smite.
Yep. We also got up to Warp Ritual on 7, okay.
Yeah, Warp Ritual from the Neurothrope. And we are shooting now, firing the Venom Cannon into the Harpy, I believe. Oh, I think it just whiffed. Oh, no.
The Harpy whiffed?
The Carnifex firing the Harpy with the Venom Cannon whiffed.
Oh.
Failed all of its wound rolls.
That's not good.
And here comes a bunch of charges. We're just going to make a bunch of automatic charges, not even roll them.
Based on what you've told me about this Harpy, I can't assume we're killing this in melee with these models.
It is T8. I don't know how many wounds it has left. You can take a look at the glitch camera here.
It's like 15?
He's back up to full because he only took a couple and he had killed a warrior to heal.
Down to 12? Down 13.
So we're rolling out the Carnifex attacks right now.
Adaptive Severgene's asking a very interesting question. Is this potentially, if you guys are not aware, Joel has been labeled the Art of War killer in this tournament. He has killed every single Art of War player that was vying for a victory here. His run could not be understated how impressive it was to get here, but we're not done.
Yeah, we do have Catalyst, I believe, on that Harpy right now, so he's taking 5+ damage, ignores. It looks like 2 wounds went through from the Carnifex and 3 damage if that got saved. Only 3 damage going through onto the Harpy, dropping him to 11. I don't think he's going to...
So the only number that matters is 0.
...be killed by a Malaceptor here.
Yeah, absolutely, Chad. I don't want to please do not make it sound like I am undercutting Charlie's path to get here. Both players, as we said, doesn't even matter who wins this game. They have both been amazing. They have so much to be proud of this weekend.
So, yeah, we made a little bit of a misplay there, or a mechanical mistake. Charlie had rolled out his attacks on the warrior, but Joel had actually not charged the warrior in and didn't roll his attacks with him. So the attacks got redirected onto the Carnifex instead, which dropped it down to 4 wounds. The Venomthropes. Oh, we didn't have enough casts to get an onslaught off on the Venomthropes, so the Venomthropes not getting to charge into the bottom right-hand secondary. So they're just going to be chilling like villains for now.
So clearly don't get. I mean, they're not going to do anything next turn.
And I don't think that Charlie needs to do anything to score his 12 this turn, right? Because he has the bottom left objective with the Hive Tyrant, he has the bottom right objective with those Gargoyles, and he has the top right objective with his Malaceptor.
So he's getting 12 there. All the two last are alive. He's getting Stranglehold again. So they're going to push on Stranglehold. Warp Ritual to 7. R&D. I don't know if he can finish it. To the last versus no prisoners. It becomes a question of how much did he necessarily... If he got a 13 on no prisoners, I think Joel might win by 1 point. If we can't finish R&D. This is insane. We have no way to know how many no prisoners are there until the game. We're not going to worry about it.
So Charlie realizing that nothing he does really here is going to change the final score of the game. He has no way to take the objective in the middle because there are 2 monsters protecting that Tyranid warrior that's sitting back there, and there are no appreciable ranged attacks on the table.
Why does he even need the middle objective? Doesn't he just have 3 anyway?
For Charlie. They are adding up the final points there.
I think it has to do with how many no prisoners we got.
So I think that we have 12 for Charlie on...
Wait, that also matters from mission. To get 2 on the mission on turn 5, he needs to take an objective, kill a model that was on an objective, or take the center.
So we got done either of those. Yeah, we got the 15 to the last scored. We got the 12 for mission. And I believe that Charlie Andre has just taken this event.
That's a tie right now, because I don't think he got the mission, the actual mission special rule this turn.
Yep. Yeah. So the players are just adding up the final score here. We'll let them add it together. Joel has believed that he does not have a way to win here, and that Charlie has taken it. But we'll just double check the scores.
If no prisoners is correct, and I'm correct that Charlie did not take the middle objective and did not kill a unit that was on an objective, then it's an actual tie.
Yeah. So
as long as no prisoners is a 14.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he got the 2 points for doing a thing.
Yep, I'm with you, and I think that's what they're talking about right now. Charlie realizing that he can potentially try to kill the Zoanthropes to kill a unit on an objective. But he can't fall back and charge with the Haruspecs. He would have to do it with psychic powers from the Malaceptor and his own Zoanthropes.
Have you ever heard of a tie in the finals of a GT?
This is a major. I don't know if I've seen a tie in the finals of a major.
Maybe like a 30-person event or something.
Oh my God, chat. Regardless.
If it's a tie, I believe the breaker would be who had the higher ranking coming into top 8, which I believe would be Joel Wilson was undefeated, I think?
Joel Wilson was undefeated. Charlie Andre coming in with 1 loss, if I remember correctly.
I could be wrong. I don't know. It's never come up before.
Yep.
I'm not sure. If he got 1 point on the mission, that seems to be what they may have calculated here. 8-16. If we have 9 on the mission, that's it. That's the game.
This is absolutely wild.
Are they counting the missions wrong? Or they had been counting the missions wrong? There was 9 instead of 10. I mean, if they tie on the mission, then we win because we're +1 on to the last.
Yeah, so I think we're assuming that both players are going to get 45 primary, and so we're going to look at the secondaries. I think what we're doing right now is just checking and double checking no prisoners to ensure that score is accurate.
I mean, it's not enough to win anyway. It would have to be 16 to tie the game. All right, are we? It looks like everyone's up for the table. I think this is it. I think Mr. Charlie Andre has squeaked out.
Oh my God! With that bottom round 5,
Oh.
12-point primary plus the perfect to the last score, I think is what did it right there.
That was it. Like we had to find. Joel needed to find an opportunity to take out any of those big monsters.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Charlie just didn't give it to him, realizing that was such a big deal.
What completed that? The third Nakamund data.
Let's see. I get table boss.
Yeah, no to the last one down, chat. The Harpy was well protected by the infantry units in the center. Didn't Charlie played it very conservatively. Didn't move it into threat range of any of the.
What picked up the third R&D? The Gargoyle.
Didn't allow any of the mortal wound turns to go into it essentially.
So he had done what were the 3 quadrants he did in the game?
Huh? The only quadrant he didn't get was this one. He did this one first, then he did that one, picked them up, and then last turn he just that was his whole turn.
So the Gargoyles just did it a bunch of times and encircled every time.
Okay.
I think they
I don't know how I didn't see them flying around doing
that. They popped in off of the camera every time.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm looking at the stops.
Okay.
So the Gargoyles are here.
Yes.
He said I picked them up, and they both knew, they both agreed that was picked up. And then he said, at the end, he says, I'm just dropping them here.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so he picked them up at the bottom of the last turn, and they just
that makes sense.
Okay. He just never set them down.
Right.
There's no need. Understand.
Yeah.
Understand.
And we still have Deathleaper on this bottom right objective, right?
Yep.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Chat, this
absolutely
this
wild.
Has been insane. I had been hoping to do an interview, but Trevi, it's incredibly late, and I think our players are ready to go home.
It is super late. Yeah. So the players, I do want to say, the players just they shook on camera there. We saw a moment ago. Joel, congratulating Charlie on an incredible game played, and glad that they could sort of power through the stress of the game and make it happen at the end there.
Absolutely. Well, chat, we have absolutely loved spending the last 72 hours or whatnot with you. It's been an absolute blast.
Oh my god.
I have been Lyle Dixon. This will continue to be the Tactical Tortoise, Mr. Trevi. And sir, I just hope we get an opportunity to run it back at some point, because this was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life.
Absolutely. Lyle, can I get a good game? Very
sir.
professional handshake on camera
good
there.
Game. Well played, Trevi.
Good co-casting with you, Lyle. Huge congratulations to Charlie Andre for taking down the 2022 Motor City Mayhem in one of the most nail-biting final games I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
Those of you who would love to hear Charlie's thoughts, I'm sure that he's going to be making the podcast circuit this week. So
absolutely.
But we know he hasn't been feeling well, and it's incredibly late, and we want to make sure that everyone takes care of himself.
So. He's looking absolutely worn out. Final mortal wound count?
Final mortal wound count.
I think we did 3 to the Harpy.
Better. So that would have ended up at 77 mortal wounds total.
77. Good stuff.
Mind Bolt's good.
I mean, that's less than you would expect with 5 Malaceptors on the table.
We did 69 by ourselves last round.
One player
40.
did 69.
He did
5 Malaceptors.
Yeah.
Could not do. But that's how powerful Tyranids are at denying mortal wounds as well.
That's the power of Shadow in the Warp.
Minus the cast, plus the deny,
Yeah,
that's part of the matchup there. Well, Lyle, this has been absolutely incredible. I hope everyone enjoyed our coverage from the weekend.
Absolutely.
From Motor City Mayhem this year.
And can I just say, we got to say it one last time, Trevi. Make sure that over the next year until 420 MCM next year, make sure you blazer it.
MCM 420.
I'm going to fight for that date if it's available, Trevi.
Make sure, everyone, that before we sign off here, if you haven't gone and checked it out yet, the Death and Glory YouTube channel, I know Lyle's trying to grow it even bigger. If you're in the Twitch chat, YouTube, go check that out and drop a sub there. If you're in the YouTube chat, drop a sub already because you're there. That's great. Any follows or support on the Twitch channel as well are greatly appreciated. And I hope everyone keeps it classy and has a good remainder of their weekend.
I can't let you leave without saying, by that same nature, if you have enjoyed Trevi's content this weekend and have never checked it out before, you need to go check out the Tactical Tortoise YouTube channel as well. You
can go check me out at tactical-tortoise.com. I also stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday at twitch.tv/tacticaltortoisetv. We do a lot of 40K all day, every day. And
all right.
It's fun. It's a good time.
One more handshake, Trevi.
One more.
This has been amazing.
Thank you, Lyle.
Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Keep it classy.